We'll get started in just a moment. The January 11th, 2024 regular meeting of the Fairfax County School Board will now come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence and a performance of the national anthem by the Herndon High School Guitar 4 Ensemble, under the direction of Christopher Cunningham.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have another round of applause for our Herndon High School students. Thank you. All right. Agenda item 2.02, certification of closed meeting compliance. In order to comply with section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia, it is necessary for the board to certify that since the Fairfax County School Board convened a closed meeting on January 11th, 2024, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board during the closed meeting. One second. Can I get an opinion from the parliamentarian or council as to whether we do this part of our meeting since we're continuing with closed after the meeting?
My recommendation as parliamentarian would be to go ahead and take care of the motions that were considered during the closed meeting and to follow up on any motions that are done when you continue.
All right. Do I have a motion? Mr. Moon. Is there a second? Mr. McElveen. All those in favor? Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Mr. McDaniel, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Lady, Ms. St. John Cunning, Dr. Anderson, Mr. Dunn, Ms. Anderson, Ms. Dixit, Mr. Moon. That's unanimous. All right. Agenda item 2.03, confirmation of action taken and closed. I call on Ms. Sizemore-Heiser for a motion.
I move to deny the school reassignment appeal of a student who participated in the group assault of another student at school and confirm the disciplinary decision of the division superintendent.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Mr. McDaniel, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Lady, Ms. St. John Cunning, Mr. Dunn, Dr. Anderson, Ms. Anderson, Ms. Dixit, Mr. Moon. That is unanimous. I call on Ms. Anderson for a motion.
Mr. Frisch, Ms. Dixit did not have her hand raised.
Oh, I apologize. Without objection, I'd like to ask Ms. Dixit if she'd like her vote recorded differently. Ms. Dixit, would you like to record your vote as? No. Any objection? Great. Thank you very much. I apologize.
Mr. Chair, may I be recognized, please?
Yes, Ms. Marin.
Hello, good evening. Unfortunately, I'm not able to be there in person. I did submit the request to be virtually participating.
That gets read after the closed portion.
Okay, so I'm not voting in the certification or
Correct.
abstaining from that? Okay, thank you.
All right,
Pardon the
no
interruption.
worries. All right, I call on Ms. Anderson for a motion.
I move to deny the school reassignment appeal of a student who participated in the group assault of another student at school and confirm the disciplinary decision of the division superintendent.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Mr. Moon, Ms. Anderson, Dr. Anderson, Mr. Dunn, Ms. St. John Cunning, Ms. Lady, Mr. McElveen, Mr. McDaniel, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, and myself. All opposed? Ms. Dixit, any abstentions? All right, the motion passes. I call on Dr. Anderson for a motion.
I move to deny the school reassignment appeal of a student who possessed, used, and distributed for profit a THC vape at school and to confirm the disciplinary decision of the division superintendent.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Mr. McDaniel, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Lady, Ms. St. John Cunning, Mr. Dunn, Dr. Anderson, Ms. Dixit, Mr. Moon. All opposed? None. All abstentions? None. The motion passes. We will continue with closed session after tonight's regular business meeting and return to officially close when we're finished. Agenda item 2.04, announcements. Ms. Marin has submitted a written request to attend this evening's meeting virtually due to a personal conflict. All those in favor of approving Ms. Marin's request, please raise your hand. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Mr. McDaniel, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Lady, Ms. St. John Cunning, Mr. Dunn, Dr. Anderson, Ms. Dixit, Mr. Moon. All opposed? Abstentions? Welcome. Will you test your microphone, Ms. Marin?
I believe I already did. Sorry about that. Thank you. Good evening.
No worries. If you'd like to review a copy of the agenda and any agenda item that is being discussed tonight, that information may be found in the back of the auditorium or on the website fcps.edu/schoolboard/boarddocs. Tonight's meeting is being broadcast on channel 99 and live streamed on the website fcps.edu/tv/ch99. Agenda item 2.05, election of school board chair and vice chair. The next order of business is agenda item 2.05, the election of school board chair and vice chair. Section 22.1-76 of the Code of Virginia specifies that at the annual organizational meeting in January or July, a school board shall elect one of its members to serve as chairman and may elect one of its members to serve as vice chairman, both for a one-year term, and shall also approve other appointments and designations of responsibility necessary for board operations during the year. I now call on Dr. Reed to conduct the selection of process of the school board chair for the remainder of this school year.
Thank you, Mr. Frisch. At this time, I will open the floor to nominations for chair of the Fairfax County School Board.
I nominate Carl Frisch for chairman of the board.
Is there a second?
I second the nomination.
Carl Frisch has been nominated as chair. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, the motion before the board is to elect Carl Frisch as chair of the Fairfax County School Board. I'll call on those members who nominated him for comments first. Ms. Lady, would you like to speak to your nomination?
Yes, I would, Dr. Reed. Thank you. I just want to share, I've known Carl Frisch for a very long time, personally, but also have followed him in his work here on the school board. Great respect for all of the work he has done in his first tenure, and also watched him lead as vice chair as a new board member. I was very grateful to him for his support in helping organize with leadership orientations for new board members. He's been on call as needed and responsive to any requests. I feel confident in his leadership. He puts students first in his decision making, and it would be an honor to serve alongside of him as chair of our board. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, would you like to speak to your second?
Yes, thank you. I guess it's too early to say ditto. However, I would also echo everything that Ms. Lady just said, is that we have been hugely supported as new board members through Mr. Frisch's leadership, and I would be honored to serve alongside him with him as our chair.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Are there any other board members who wish to speak? If you could just raise your hand, then I can call on you.
Dr. Reed?
Mr. Moon?
So even though it has only been about 10 days that I have worked with Mr. Frisch as a colleague on the board, I have come to a true appreciation of what he can bring to the rest of the board, as far as his leadership and also his personality of trying to include everybody in the discussion. And I appreciate that. I look forward to your continuing leadership for the next 6 months. I'm happy to support you.
Thank you, Mr. Moon. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser?
I am thrilled and honored to support this, as I was your election to vice chair back in July. I am, as the immediate past chair of the school board, I will say that I know you have all of the skills, knowledge, and collaboration to really do a fantastic job as chair. And I'm so grateful to you. I just want to say I know the difficulty of this job and the time-consuming nature of this job, and so I just wanted to say thank you for stepping up to lead this board, as you've been an amazing colleague and a collaborative colleague. I've been honored to be serving alongside you the last 4 years. I'm honored to be working with you as our chair. So thank you for stepping up is what I wanted to say.
If there are no other comments, then we'll proceed with the vote, which requires a majority of votes from those board members present and voting. The motion before the board is that Carl Frisch be elected chair of the Fairfax County School Board. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
That would be Mr. Moon, Ms. Dixit, Ms. Anderson, Dr. Anderson, Mr. Dunn, Mr. Frisch, Ms. St. John Cunning, Ms. Lady, Mr. McElveen, Mr. McDaniel, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, and Ms. Marin. Those opposed? I believe that's a majority. At this time, I am pleased to introduce the new chair of the Fairfax County School Board, Mr. Carl Frisch.
I just want to say that I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve as chair. You know, I was elected vice chair with Elaine Tolan, who was kind enough to send me a text message during our first work session as a new board, telling me what was on her calendar. And let me tell you, it was sparse. So if she's watching at home, she's not. I appreciate everything that I learned from her and everything that we did together as a team. And I think we all agree that the school board needs to work with parents and staff as we advance a student-centered focus on our strategic plan. and I remain, as always, committed to collaborating with my colleagues, new and returning, to help our world-class educators deliver on the promise of excellence, equity, opportunity, to help every student achieve their full, limitless potential in our system. So I look forward to getting to work with this board over the next 6 months. Thank you. We will now move on to election of the vice chair. Since I am no longer vice chair, there will be an election to elect a new vice chair. Do I have any nominations for vice chair? Mr. McDaniel.
I nominate Melanie Mirren for school board vice chair.
Is there a second? Ms. Sizemore-Heiser.
I second.
Thank you. Melanie Mirren has been nominated for vice chair. Do I have any further nominations for vice chair? There being no further nominations for vice chair, the motion before the board is to elect Ms. Mirren as vice chair of the Fairfax County School Board. Mr. McDaniel, would you like to speak to your nomination?
Briefly, Mr. Chairman, I could probably get away with making no comments, but I just wanted to be very brief in mine. I'm making the motion to nominate Melanie tonight because she has extensive public education policy experience. She has school board leadership experience as the governance chair, as past budget chair, and as public engagement chair. I'm excited for her new role, and I'm excited to work with her and all of my new colleagues on this board. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, would you like to speak to the nomination?
Just briefly, I'm excited to be able to nominate Ms. Marin. One of the many strengths Ms. Marin brings is being very process-focused and process-oriented, which I think will serve us very well as we are a new board coming together and working out our new norms and processes. So I think that will be a real strong strength and to her role as vice chair. And having served alongside her for the last 4 years, I know she's very student-focused. She's really out in her community to represent her community well, and a fierce advocate for stakeholders for the best interests of our school system. And as former budget chair and governance chair, I think she brings some of that leadership role. So I'm honored to second the nomination, excuse me.
Thank you very much. Any others? Dr. Anderson?
Thank you. I'm glad to support my colleague, Ms. Marin. As was shared over the last 4 years, she has definitely shown that she is driven by process, which is something that is near and dear to my personal heart. And she is a whiz at ensuring that we are staying very close to the work of the school board, which is to focus on the work of policy. I know that Ms. Marin has many wonderful ideas and will serve in a wonderful way as part of our board's leadership. So I'm glad to support.
All right. If there are no other comments, then we'll proceed with the vote, which requires a majority of votes of those board members present and voting. The motion before the board is that Melanie Marin be elected vice chair of the Fairfax County School Board. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye. All right. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Mr. McDaniel, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Lady, Ms. St. John Cunning, Mr. Dunn, Dr. Anderson, Ms. Dixit, Mr. Moon. That is unanimous. We've just announced the vote. The motion passes. At this time, I am pleased to introduce the new vice chair of the Fairfax County School Board, Melanie Marin. Can we max headroom her and make her screen big for the audience? There we go.
Hi, good evening, and I am so sorry to miss this momentous occasion. I had made plans a long time ago. But thank you to my colleagues for your unified trust in my leadership and service of the board. I'm eager to join Chair Frisch in facilitating the smooth workings of this newly elected board. Already, I'm inspired by the energy and calls to action that our members have expressed, and I am ready to help us achieve our best work together so our students, staff, and community can thrive. Onward to big things in the months ahead.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marin. All right, I call on Ms. Sizemore-Heiser for a motion.
I move that the Fairfax County School Board adopt the school board mid-year liaison and committee assignments as detailed in the agenda item and attachment on board docs.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Mr. McDaniel, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Lady, Ms. St. John Cunning, Mr. Dunn, Dr. Anderson, Ms. Dixit, Mr. Moon. Well, it's not in here, but technically it's correct, Dr. Anderson's point of order about speaking. So, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, I think this is just filling the vacancies left by our previous board on the committee assignments, so I'm happy to move it.
Thank you. Dr. Anderson? I appreciate it. We'll take the vote again with no objection. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Mr. McDaniel, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Lady, Ms. St. John Cunning, Mr. Dunn, Dr. Anderson, Ms. Dixit, Mr. Moon, and myself, and Ms. Marin. That is unanimous. Agenda item 3.01, community participation. The next order of business is community participation. We welcome all community members who are here and those who signed up to speak this evening. Community members can sign up to provide comments at school board regular business meetings and public hearings on the school board's website. At regular business meetings, speakers may address any school-related issue except those that have been scheduled for public hearings, such as the capital improvement program, budget, and boundaries. Comments targeting, criticizing, or attacking individual students are not permitted during public meetings. Complaints regarding school-based employees should be directed to the appropriate school principal or other school officials. Speakers should not use personally identifiable information in connection with any individual student or school-based employee. Additionally, speakers should be respectful and observe proper decorum in their statements, avoiding profanity, inappropriate gestures, shouting, and comments that run counter to the spirit and letter of the school division's non-discrimination policy, which protects students and staff from discrimination based on age, race, color, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion, national origin, marital status, or disability. Speakers must limit their remarks to no more than 2 minutes, direct their comments to the school board, and should remain at the podium until concluding their remarks. Additionally, only the speaker may stand at the podium. They may not be joined by others. Speaker substitutions are not permitted. A speaker may not yield their time to another individual. At the conclusion of 2 minutes, the microphone or video will be turned off. School board members will be listening but not responding. We ask our audience members to be respectful of one another. Shouting and outbursts will not be tolerated. Audience members should hold their applause until the conclusion of a speaker's remarks and remain in their seats, including when video recording or taking photos. We are grateful for all of those who have come to speak to us at today's meeting, and thank you for your cooperation. Madam Clerk, please call the first speaker.
Elizabeth Nichols. Elizabeth Nicholas.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth, and I'm here to discuss a very important issue with the school menu. There's only one gluten-free entree, nachos. More and more kids are being diagnosed with celiac disease, and their schools need to be able to support them with gluten-free entrees in the cafeteria. I was diagnosed with celiac when I was 5 years old, and I was never able to buy food from the cafeteria, except on nacho days. But every day other than nacho day, I had to bring lunch, and nacho day doesn't happen very often, approximately once a month. I want to thank you for offering the salad bar at schools. This is an excellent option for us. However, there needs to be hot gluten-free entrees in the school cafeterias for those who are gluten sensitive. This could include nachos, gluten-free pasta, or gluten-free chicken nuggets as examples at least once a week. Since my school starts earlier and I am out the door at 6:45 a.m., I have less time to get ready, which means packing a lunch is just an extra challenge. But it would be so much easier for so many if they didn't have to pack lunch, which you can help with by adding more gluten-free entrees to the cafeteria. It would just help and support those of us with celiac disease or those who are gluten sensitive to add more gluten-free entrees to the school menus. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you consider my proposal. Thank you.
Caleb Curaga. Sandra Davis.
I
have a son with celiacs too. She's a brave young lady. The results of the 2023 election were not a mandate. Frankly, most people didn't know who we were. Voters came to the polls with sample ballots and voted straight D ticket with national politics on their mind. The only campaigning you had to do was to get on the sample ballot. You misled voters into thinking parents were trying to ban works of literature when the concern is about highly sexualized graphic novels. The day after the election, a mother posted some images from a school library book her 9-year-old had brought home. The post was quickly taken down. Pornography, of course. On the campaign trail, you looked afraid to be seen talking to me or simply left the premises because this is too hard with her here. My very presence was offensive, and this is exactly how you treat non-progressive students and teachers, and there's no need to wonder why they leave FCPS. One of you told voters that FCPS does not keep secrets from parents. I hope you were misinformed and not straight up lying. Some of you filled out your petition of qualified voters in a sketchy manner, and when called out, you blamed your opponents. Deflecting responsibility is an FCPS specialty. You'll fit right in. For those of you who blame the state for FCPS funding being critical underfunded, how about a long overdue full independent audit of the FCPS budget? The rest of the state doesn't want to pay for your overbloated administration, and neither do the locals who pay ever increasing property taxes. 4, you self-proclaimed China experts. Were you complicit or incompetent when the TJ Partnership Fund received $3.6 million from entities affiliated with the CCP? You pay your high-priced consultants on time, but you leave parents begging for reimbursements for FAPE denied. A recent poll shows that a high percentage of young adults support the oppressor binary. With rising anti-Semitism, constituents deserve to know if their school district embeds this ideology into the teaching at the expense of factual history. My hope is that at least one of you will have the courage to be a common-sense, moderate leader that people were hoping for in me.
Stephanie Lundquist Aurora.
Good evening, and welcome to the new members. I'd like to believe we have a lot in common. We need to work together to address the fentanyl crisis in our schools. All hands on deck. Pandemic learning loss should also be our very top priority. Last year, FCPS students fared poorly on their SOLs. 25% failed math, 43% failed writing, 22% failed reading, 38% failed history. And the continuation of heavy laptop reliance in elementary schools isn't helping anything. Next, I'm sure that we all see the benefit of participation in sports and expanding the middle school program, and hopefully there can be debate teams at all of our high schools. I hope that eliminating the 800+ trailers at our schools is on your radar as well. The last board seemed more concerned with contracting its own office space for $400,000 and increasing personal salaries than they were in dealing with our school trailer parks. Hopefully, you also think that all forms of racism are wrong. The last board changed the TJ admissions policy to discriminate against Asians. One member admitted it when she said that the new admissions policy is, quote, anti-Asian. Hate to say it, LOL. She was right, but there's absolutely nothing funny about discriminating against children based on their race. The TJ selection process should be based on merit, not discrimination. The last board also used hateful and racist language when they referred to the previous superintendent, Scott Brabrand. One member said that he was, quote, too white to get it. Those members would grandstand for hours about symbolic resolutions, likely for media attention and political donations and eventually promotions. But wouldn't it be great if you could just make the school board boring again and work within the law to avoid those lawsuits? I think Fairfax residents would really get on board if you prioritized the most important things, like educating the children on the fundamentals and getting fentanyl out of our schools. Finally, that $3.5 billion budget needs an external audit. There's so much waste, and there's a lot of money that you could use to other things. Thank you.
Cassandra Alcoin. Tamika Payne.
Good evening. The Fairfax County Model Policy was recently reviewed by the governor, and then a subsequent review was completed at the Fairfax County schools that resulted in a different application of the guidance. This guidance policy was communicated most recently via a post on the FCPS website. While the district's policy interpretation was found to be legally sufficient, I bring to the attention of this board the concerns of the implementation fallout. The policy is currently employed and equitably supports a protected class at the expense and at the risk of those who do not subscribe to expansive gender identifiers. It favors certain students that may be excessive and work contrary to the laws and goals of the school and the social contract between the school and the students. In a period of 30 days, this policy application has put my child in multiple positions of personal compromise and safety with no sound recourse for a response. I propose a working group be comprised to review the short and long-term implications of the district's model policy, complete with recommendations to further the educational objectives of the school. Specifically, I request timely communication and notification to parents about the risks that exist at the school and undocumented exceptions to the policy usage. Staff training for students with traumatic experiences surrounding gender fluidity when they do not identify with that group. Data metrics clearly defining the need and impact of the Fairfax County school policy deviation, and a fair disbursement of resource accessibility to all taxpayer funding for the facilities that were built, and no longer lawfully restrict the intended use of those facilities to students who do not identify with gender fluidity. Thank you.
Theodora Geis. Mark Spooner.
Good evening. I'm here tonight with a plea that this new board resolve to spend its full energy on quality education and not on ideology. The last board found itself constantly not only in the local news but the national news, and it didn't get there by focusing on the ABCs and moderate policies. Among the things that got us there were closing the schools at the behest of the teachers' unions for a prolonged period of time while other districts focused on getting back to school as quickly as possible. Secondly, deciding that it wasn't acceptable to have even one high school in this big district that would value rigorous education above all else. Third, paying huge fees to a noted race hustler to spread his poison in this district. Keeping pornographic literature like genderqueer in student libraries. Adopting the country's most extreme LGBT policy, including allowing biological boys to play in girls' sports and to use their shower rooms, based on the principle that the desires of a tiny minority are more important than the rights of the majority. Deciding that it's okay to keep secrets from parents about their kids' mental health, and deciding that it's okay for the school board to defy laws that it doesn't agree with. None of these decisions were at the core of this board's proper mission. They drove some people out of the school district and they created unwanted divisions. Please, please don't try to outdo the last board in this direction. Return to the basics. Your constituents will thank you for it. Thank you.
Leslie Houston.
Good evening, Chair Frisch, school board members, Dr. Reed, and leadership team. I am Leslie Houston, president of Fairfax Education Association, a union representing thousands of your employees. Welcome and congratulations on your recent electoral victories and re-elections. Let me express my sincere gratitude to you as you take on this important work and commit to creating an environment that fosters learning and growth for staff and students. Today, we find ourselves at a critical crossroads where the allure of the teaching profession is diminishing. This is not unique to Fairfax, but it is a challenge we must confront together. The individuals who have dedicated their lives to shaping the minds of our youth are now facing unprecedented levels of stress, burnout, and mental health challenges. We, the Fairfax Education Association, look forward to open and constructive collaboration with the school board. Together, we can explore ways to create a more supportive environment for our educators and students. We implore you to champion public education and advocate for what is right within it. Disregard the skeptics and focus your energy on the priority, the students. Protect our marginalized communities and by supporting safe and equitable schools. I encourage each of you to work closely with FEA and FCFT. We are the experts in the field of education, ready to address your questions and provide guidance. I urge you to continue leveraging our expertise as we collectively strive for the betterment of our education system. Thank you for your service, and may
Chuck Ronco.
Good evening, Chair Frisch, Superintendent Reed, and members of the school board. My name is Chuck Ronco, and I teach algebra and pre-calculus at Falls Church High School. I come to you this evening an excited and enthusiastic member of the Fairfax Education Association. I'm excited tonight because this evening is the first opportunity that we, the public, will see this new board operate and interact. And I'm enthusiastic because I have had nothing but positive experiences in the meetings that I've had and the conversations that some of us have had recently. I look forward to more conversations with you in the future, and I invite you to come and visit the Fairfax Education Association so that you can meet some of our union brothers and sisters who are your employees. All of us care deeply about what we do in and around our schools and work sites. All of us care deeply about providing a caring and healthy environment to work and learn in. And most importantly, all of us at the FEA care deeply for the students and families that we serve. The future looks bright. I'm not only proud to stand here as the Vice President of the Fairfax Education Association, but I'm proud to stand here as an employee, and I'm proud to stand here in support of my union, my school, and my students. I look forward to the future. Thank you.
Melissa Morrison.
Before my time begins, I just would like to submit the following exhibits. These are emails and meeting notes I've had over the last 12 months with certain FCPS department heads, school board members, FCPA, and members of the community.
You can give it to the clerk when you're finished.
I will, thank you. Dear Chairman, board members, thank you for your time and efforts, and welcome to the new board. I'm excited for a new start. I am also very supportive of Dr. Reed's 5-pillar strategic plan, with equity being at the center of implementing each one. I'm here today as a Herndon Middle and high school parent, member of the Herndon Middle PTA board, a taxpayer and resident in Fairfax County since 1999, an active PTA and community volunteer for many, many years, CPA for over 25 years, and a product of a majority economically disadvantaged K-12 public Virginia school. You may ask what these submissions are for. What is my purpose with these meetings and emails over the last 12 months? My focus has and will continue to be on the inequities experienced in the day-to-day lives of students, teachers, and administrators at Herndon Middle School. I began by comparing the FCPS and VDOE data on several metrics, test scores, chronic absenteeism, demographics. To name a few of the outliers, of the closest 5 middle schools compared, Herndon failed most of the ESSA school quality indicators in math and English, where all the other schools passed. Herndon significantly having higher numbers of English learners, economically disadvantaged, and special education students. The percentage of these students to teachers is at a huge negative as compared to the closest 4 proximity middle schools. Herndon Middle has over 55% free and reduced lunch, but this percentage is not high enough to receive some of the $35 million in federal Title I funding, even though it has 3 Title I elementaries feeding into it. For accreditation, Herndon Middle passed, however, its scores were the lowest by significant gaps in English, math, and science, gaps from 19 to 42% as compared to the 4 other closest proximity middle schools.
We'll make sure the clerk gets it to everybody.
Harry Jackson.
I come before you today to share insights from the recent FCPS Family Life Education Committee meeting on the 10th of January that was not publicly live streamed, making one has to wonder what's the committee trying to hide. The committee's deliberations revealed controversial proposals, particularly within the grade 9 sexual prevention program. A suggestion to remove references to gang sexual violence, trafficking, and incest. Amidst the rise in human trafficking raises profound concerns about our readiness to prepare students for real-world challenges. Furthermore, the shift from tangible coercive behavior to an abstract focus on language could potentially undermine the severity of such issues. The committee's makeup, primarily of white women with some diverse representation, mirrors the broader societal challenges of diversity. Discussions highlighted the necessity for more inclusive lessons on sexual behavior, addressing the significant gap of human trafficking in the curriculum, and then, surprisingly, open attitudes towards sex work and prostitution. A sensitive topic was the committee's interest in safe harbor legislation for underage prostitution. While protecting minors is paramount, we must tread cautiously to avoid unintentionally legitimizing underage sex work. Of equal concern was the dialogue around circumventing FOIA requests, suggesting a troubling approach to transparency and accountability within our public institutions. The recommendations made by Chair Carrie Reynolds, including the non-compliance with a FOIA request regarding committee members, demand our attention and action. A notable presentation by Sherry Zamara on Faith in Action brought to light the growing influence of the Unitarian Universalism in our educational sphere. This faith, characterized by this liberal stance and diverse beliefs, has increasingly shaped our curriculum, from critical race theory to transgender policies. The program's influence at Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology, sparking legal challenges, exemplifies the deep impact and controversy of such ideologies. In confronting these issues, we face a pivotal question: should a single religious perspective, notably one so enmeshed in cultural debates, hold considerable sway in public education? Advocacy for social justice and diversity is essential, but we must avoid allowing any single ideology, religious or secular, to dominate our educational landscape. This is especially pertinent. Thank you.
Cheryl Binkley.
Y'all just look so good. I'm really glad to see you here. I come to you tonight, and it's the reason you'll see me fairly often. I come to you as a true believer in public education. And the reason I believe is because learning and the schools have saved me over and over. When I was a girl and the rugs flopped on the floor when the wind blew, school saved me. At end of second grade, when my grandmother was shot and killed, school saved me. In high school, when I didn't know who I could become or might be, schools were there for me. In college, when I was working 40 hours a week and taking overloads to put myself through, the schools maintained and sustained me. When I was in seminary, they sustained me. When I was in grad school, they sustained me. When I taught and I watched my students struggling with challenges equal to or greater than any I had faced, I watched as the schools were the refuge and sustenance of my students. So I want to thank you tonight for being here and taking on a thankless task to provide for the students that are in our community the sustenance and the salvation that I have enjoyed for my 72 years. Thank you.
Robert Rigby.
My name is Robert Rigby. I speak tonight for myself. I speak for no organization. Oh, shucks. Oh, okay. Hooray for the Unitarian Universalists. I'm a Quaker, and we were maligned and thrown out once, too. Anyway, tomorrow, all teachers in another school division in this Commonwealth will have to turn into their administrators a list of all students whom they suspect to be transgender or non-binary. Another school board is voting now on a policy that bans trans people in sports, chess club and Latin club, band, on and on. It forces everyone to misgender all trans kids all the time. It reveals private medical information, and it bans all queer-related materials like this. And it separates kids in family life education by gender. It outs every queer kid as a matter of course. Books, opt-outs from the curriculum, gender separation, sports names, pronouns, privacy, they're all a package. If you yield on any part of this, gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans, and non-binary people will think you're going to yield on all of it. That's kind of what we thought when with the surprise thing on family life education last May. Dr. Reed's done great work on this. Thank you. I'd like the board to do it too. No one knows what y'all are really going to do. If you start with appeasement, we'll assume that that continues. Keep respect and welcome for all our kids in books, activities, and family life education. No appeasement. It doesn't work. Thank you.
Please play the video submitted by Stacy Linkton.
Carl Frisch is swearing in on December 13th on a stack of pornographic books that I've exposed in our public school libraries was a big middle finger to me and to the parents of Fairfax County. The books contain explicit illustrations of a man having sex with a boy, oral sex, anal sex, and masturbation. They also include an explicit description of a child being raped by his adult male cousin. These depictions of pedophilia are an abomination. Carl has stated repeatedly that he thinks these books are a benefit to your children. He has consistently supported all manner of perversion, including putting a photo of himself at a monument in Los Angeles to a pedophile named Harry Hay, a radical communist homosexual, and photos of himself at a drag queens event in Fairfax City with children where adult male homosexuals dance seductively for kids for tips. Drag is about prostitution. We have laws against pornography in this country in front of minors. If they can't legally buy it in town or be shown it, it doesn't magically become okay on a public school campus. I naively thought that our board might do something to enforce the law and remove the books. Therefore, since Carl wants to continue to distribute pornography to minors, he has demonstrated he is unfit to hold office on this school board. I'm announcing a petition to recall him from office. This is the remedy we, the parents, will use to deal with a lawless school board chair, to enforce the law and to remove this filth and protect our kids.
Mr. Chair, that was our last public speaker.
Thank you. Agenda item 3.04, 3.02, academic matters. Dr. Reed.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. So I will this evening have an opportunity to share graduation and diploma outcomes. And this is an opportunity for us to look at a high level at some data. And I did pass out an additional chart to each of you. We did amend a couple of the slides to make sure that we had some comparisons to Virginia, to the Commonwealth as a whole. So for those of you who print the PowerPoint out, you have the amended slides to slide 4, actually. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Again, the graduation rates are it's a data point, one data point, but an important data point for our students here in Fairfax County. And I want to share 5-year trends. It's been the tradition with our board. I'm told that we like to look at data over a prior set of years and not just 1 year at a time. So this represents data from 2019, which is pre-pandemic, to 2023. And of course, our goal is to have 100% graduation. However, our 5-year trends are consistently above statewide outcomes for the past 4 years, even as we've emerged from the pandemic. Our graduation rates have improved more than 2 percentage points since 2019, compared really to the Commonwealth-wide improvement of less than 0.5%. So we're feeling that at least in our graduation rate progress, we're moving at a tighter clip than the rest of the Commonwealth. We have had slightly lower rates since 2021. Again, as coming out of the pandemic, our team has spent a lot of time having that conversation, and there were some flexibilities built in for students during the pandemic that over time, since we've returned to classes, have been less flexible. So I know that this is a piece that we're working on. We also have a theory of action around our on-time graduation support staff in buildings, and that's showing some real promise in terms of improving graduation rates, where we're very tightly focused on our seniors and the 4-year plans as students join us in 9th grade. So in parallel to graduation rates, we also want to make sure we look at our dropout rates. And these are an annual report of students who did not successfully earn either a diploma, a GED, or a certificate of completion, and did not remain enrolled. We do have some students who don't earn those within that 4-year time, but do remain enrolled, and those would not be captured here. From this graph, we see that Fairfax County Public Schools, again, has significantly reduced our rates over the 5-year trend from 7.3% to 5.5%. We're also now closely aligned with statewide rates, which are currently 5.4%. We also know that we've got some celebrations and a significant amount of work to do here but continue to outperform the state on graduation outcomes, even though our dropout rate at this point is 0.1% higher than the state average. So we do have some work to do here, and again, our division will continue to work that as we move forward. This is a slide that was a new slide that was dropped in, and it includes Fairfax County on-time graduation rate trends and Virginia Commonwealth trends, so you have an opportunity to see a comparison there. Again, we've seen for our Hispanic students the greatest 5-year increase in graduation rates, which we're very pleased with. We certainly have work to do on these rates in terms of the graduation staffing. And if I can mention that we had 9 high schools receive additional on-time graduation staffing and professional development. We saw overall improvements that were more than double the gains seen in other high schools. So as we're rolling that theory of action and strategy out, we're very pleased with the opportunities that we're seeing as an outcome of that. I also want to comment, if we could stay on that slide for a moment, thank you. I know I touched the page. You guys are really good at that. So I want to draw your attention to the students with disabilities, which is the very last row of the turquoise. And those rates are probably, they're apples and oranges. And I just want to say that we're going to work to make sure that a future chart is more accurate. But the 92%, for example, graduation rate also includes multiple pathways to that graduation. It does not necessarily imply graduation of a standard diploma, for example. So we really want to, there's a slide a little bit later on that separates that data out a little more, but we do want to make sure that while that data looks like it's improving, we want to make sure we look under that data to identify the different types of diplomas or graduation outcomes for our students with disabilities. So we do continue to expand division-wide systems and strategies and are excited, as I mentioned, about those outcomes. So this chart talks about the dropout rates, and as you recall, this is an area we're not doing quite as well with and have more opportunities, if you will. Again, it looks like we're doing better. We've lowered some parts of our dropout rates more than others, but we have work to do clearly here again. So I do want to note that our students with disabilities in the dropout area here, as we think about this, they may continue to pursue a standard diploma with or without accommodations, even after they initially receive an applied studies diploma. So let's go to the next slide for that conversation. These are the membership counts. I thought this would be an interesting slide as we changed out some slides just in terms of the actual full-time membership, which is really a breakdown of the percentage of our student body here in Fairfax County. I will also share that as of 2 weeks ago, or I guess a week ago, Mr. Sethi, we were at 181,716. So our enrollment continues to rise, which again is a good sign. But these are the demographic breakouts. So we could go to the diploma distribution. Thank you, Kevin. So this is a chart, as I mentioned earlier, where we are looking at the types of diplomas students in Fairfax County are graduating with. And we've separated our advanced, standard, and applied studies diplomas. And again, since 2019 overall, the proportion of advanced studies and standard diplomas is virtually unchanged. However, the proportion of graduating students with disabilities receiving advanced studies diplomas has increased 2.5 percentage points since 2019. And that is a point of emphasis. I know it's something we've talked about, particularly with our twice exceptional students and programming. And 2.5% is not a large number given our student population, but it is significant. And we're going to continue to build on that. We also want to share that our students graduating, our students with disabilities graduating with an applied studies diploma has been reduced 2.9 percentage points since 2019. And our goal is to make sure that all of our students are able to earn, if possible, at least standard and then potentially advanced diplomas, advanced studies. This also, I want to remind our board, is one of the measurements in our strategic plan. So this is data that we're going to be charting very closely. And let me see here. I think that's it. We jump to resources for graduation information. For those of you watching at home who can't wait to see even more data about this topic, and I know how compelling this can be, here are some links on our website. And I know once you start reading, you won't be able to stop, so do start early in the evening. So, Mr. Frisch, that is academic matters this evening.
Thank you. We'll get started with Dr. Anderson.
Thank you so much for this information. It's exciting for us to see that we're outpacing the state, but I'm really more concerned with what's happening within our schools. But before I go there, I would like for you to speak to slide 2. There's information here that tells the public that the rates are slightly lower since the statewide graduation flexibility was removed. I would love for you to explain to our public what that flexibility entailed.
So thank you, Dr. Anderson. The flexibility primarily was occurring during the pandemic time, and I'm going to call on our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Presidio, to share some of those flexibilities, as I wasn't here at that time, and I don't know that I could recite them accurately. So Dr. Presidio?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Reed, and thank you, Dr. Anderson, for that question. So for folks in the community who are listening tonight, there were a number of different flexibility waivers that the state provided to help students graduate in the first pandemic year, and then those continued into the second pandemic year with slight modification. So the first major category was some flexibility and waivers of the verified credit requirements. So allowing students to have locally awarded verified credit requirements in those courses that they needed for graduation. So instead of having to pass the SOLs, we were able to do some locally awarding of verified credits, and that was a significant flexibility waiver. They also waived things like the first aid CPR requirement, CTE requirements for graduation. They also reduced the following year, 2020-21 school year, they reduced cut scores on the SOLs and continued with some of the flexibilities around CTE requirements and CPR first aid requirements. So there's quite a few waivers that we received from the state during those years, those 2 years.
Thank you. I want to dig into the data that you provided. I think this was the blue chart. I don't recall what page that's on. And looking at this, again, we have some real areas of success, and we have some areas that are highly concerning. If you're taking a look at our English language learners, at our Hispanic students, those rates are significantly below the other groups. Can you speak to what is that work that is being engaged in so that we have less of a discrepancy in next year's data?
So we've really zeroed in on our English learner language data and programming and scaffolding for our English language students, because clearly, as you've pointed out, that is an area, while we've improved slightly, we're not improving quickly enough to hit the mark we need to hit in our strategic plan goals. I would ask Dr. Ponce to share a little bit, as he's been working with our regional assistant superintendents and school principals, as well as our school improvement team, to share briefly the plans around our EL supports, please. Dr. Ponce?
Thank you. We have been working with the teachers, and something that we find out is that 80% of our teachers actually at any point they teach, talk, or somehow they have any kind of relationship with EL students. So based on the data, we have been providing professional development strategies and revising also the curriculum and making sure that every single EL child will have intervention for language acquisition. Something else that we have been working with is to make sure that we provide support in the native language as well. It doesn't matter if they're going to be Spanish or Vietnamese or Chinese. We do have a program through Edmentum that we are targeting those children, and we have been providing support in the native language so they can acquire the knowledge in the native language. Is easier than to transfer that into English.
Thank you, Dr. Ponce. We're also, Dr. Anderson, as we move to a basal reading curriculum for our elementary, we think that that's going to provide us some very consistent curriculum and new professional development opportunities to support all learners at our elementary levels. And I don't know if Dr. Presidio wants to add anything to the modeling and planning that ISD is doing in collaboration with our chief of schools on this topic.
I don't think I would add too much to that. I think Dr. Ponce covered it well. We are looking at some specific English language development curriculum resources to support those students and really trying to accelerate their English proficiency. And when you look at the research base, the research has been pretty clear for decades that it takes students about 5 to 7 years to become proficient in a target language. So when you think about students that maybe haven't had that amount of time in our school system yet and are subject to not only completing rigorous high school courses, but also passing those end-of-course tests and those SOLs that are required for graduation, it can be quite daunting. And when we look at our students overall, and when we look at our L data and we look at students that have developed proficiency with us, they're outperforming our division averages on state tests and graduation rates. So lots of times, when we look at this data, we forget about the success that our students have when they're given enough time to develop that English proficiency. So one of the flexibilities that we do have from the state when we think about graduation requirements is those students can continue to stay enrolled in FCPS and get additional time to graduate. And that's not something that counts against them, and it doesn't count against us in our graduation rate. So the data you're seeing here, you're seeing that those students, you're not seeing those students that are still maybe enrolling for a 5th year or a 6th year to develop that English proficiency. The other thing I'd point out on that chart, since we're looking at it, is oftentimes we forget about the importance of the intersectionality of our English learners and our Hispanic students. And when you do look at that intersectionality, our Hispanic students who are not English language learners, again, are performing at that division average or above. So a lot of this is just about getting, as Dr. Ponce and Dr. Reed mentioned, students additional support, but also additional time to develop that proficiency and meet the graduation requirements.
Thank you so much, Dr. Presidio. If it's possible, Dr. Reed, can these efforts be provided in writing so that this can be shared with our community in terms of how we are trying to impact this data?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And Dr. Presidio, you must have been reading my notes when we're talking about intersectionality. It would be helpful to have that be part of this conversation because we know these students are not in a vacuum. So I look forward to that being something that continues. The second set of slides with the orange, the one that talks about dropout rates. Again, we have Hispanic students at high levels and EL students at extremely high levels. Dr. Reed, can you speak to the root causes of this data that we are reviewing this evening?
Well, I think that the root causes, I think our EL student dropout data is connected to our need to develop stronger models of support for our EL students. I also would share that there are times where our multilingual students come very late in their education career, sometimes come at ages perhaps 15, 16, 17 with very few credits. So as we work to make sure students are integrated into an academic program, often it's difficult for some of our students who come to the division older as multilingual learners to actually be able to learn the language and earn credit within those timelines, which to Dr. Presidio's point, often will want to stay in high school a little bit longer to be able to finish their diploma. And also at times we have students that leave school to go to work, honestly, to support either themselves or their families. And I think that we see that characteristic as well. I don't know if Dr. Presidio, you would be able to maybe comment on root causes to the data points Dr. Anderson referred to. This is a 5-year trend, and it looks, for all practical purposes, like we're certainly making some progress, for example, but really at the end of the day, lowering things by 2.3% over 5 years. I mean, this has been really an ongoing challenge. While we're getting a little better, I don't know if you have insights, as you've obviously been addressing this for several years.
No, I would agree with you, Dr. Reed. I don't think that those gains that we've made are anywhere near the success that we would like to see. So we need to continue to put those supports in place. You know, Dr. Ponce mentioned some of the things that we're doing with those individualized graduation plans, looking for as much flexibility and support as we can provide to our students who are behind, particularly our English language learners, but also, as Dr. Reed mentioned, we've got to have more flexible programming for students, particularly those students that might have childcare responsibilities in their family, work responsibilities. So we have tried to expand some of our alternative educational programs, but we've got a lot more work that we could do on that front. We are putting in place a flexible evening program, our Twilight program, to get students additional support. We've got that at 17 schools right now, but there's a lot more work that we need to do in this area.
I would also say, I think fundamentally, I mean, one thing that may not seem large, but I think is we have, I mean, today, for example, I had several emails that come in one language and are translatable on my email to English so that I can respond in English, and they're then translatable back to the parent. And I think those tools, as they're coming on board, that we're able to use, just being able to communicate directly with families. Sometimes when we have our students that are the translators for us with their families, being the parent of students myself at one time, they may not be accurately, parents may not always be able to accurately get information from us. So we're really working on our translation of all documents, and also being able to connect more effectively. And we really also rely on our family liaisons and strategies. But I think as we improve those as well, families will feel more connected and get answers more quickly, so they're able to support their students.
No, I wouldn't disagree, and I'd expound more, but I don't want to kind of use the rest of my time because I have a couple of more questions. On page 8 of the document, one of the things that you did provide a link to is the school level data, because I always ask about what does it look like by pyramid. I appreciated the link, but I think I would have appreciated the actual data. So I was able to use the link to pull the data to kind of create my own little sheet. I mean, I would have liked it to be shared here publicly. That's what I mean. The data's there, just for it to be shared publicly.
I see.
When I pulled it, and I just used the 2023 data and dropout rates, and I'm taking a look as to how is it that our schools are performing by pyramids, and this is how it looks. And it speaks very much to what that one parent, Melissa, talked about earlier, which is, what are the efforts for our neediest schools? If I just may finish this one sentence, please. The graduation rates are as follows for our schools. Fairfax County adult, 15%. Bryant, 37%. Mountain View, 39%. Key Center, 75%. Justice High School, 82%. Falls Church, 86%. Annandale, 87%. Herndon, which she talked about, 88%. And then everybody else is in the 90s. And all the way up to 100. That is a huge disparity. And I will say we can also put a disclaimer on the first 5 schools that I stated, because they are specialized centers. But we have 4 schools that are not yet at 90%. And I would love to know what the plan is for those schools.
Yes, ma'am. We've got 9 of the schools that we think, and again, the centers or the non-traditional programs, I think, have unique characteristics that contribute to the less than 90% graduation rate. However, we do have 9 identified schools for the supports that I referred to, the on-time graduation support, where the rates are increasing. Those are Annandale, Centerville, Falls Church, Herndon, Justice, Lewis, Mount Vernon, South Lakes, and West Potomac. And those 9 high schools have extra staffing support to support specifically graduation increases and dropout decreases.
But those staff members are not new, right? Is this
They're
brand
2
new for
years.
this year?
I believe
Because
it's
I
2
know
years. They've been there 2 years. And I think this goes through the Office of School Support, which was The on-time graduation program was begun by Mark Greenfelter just prior to his retirement. Dr. Presidio, do you want to talk a minute about that? I know that has transitioned, but that has been a project, I think, for 2 years, but at least one.
A little bit longer than that. We started that prior to the pandemic. I want to say we started the initial allocation and then we increased the number of schools that had that role. But I want to say we started in 2019, but I'd have to go back and think about that a little bit.
No, and I appreciate that, and I'm not necessarily looking for causality. I'm looking for correlation. I would love to see that we're saying because of these added staff members, this is what we're seeing in terms of impact. The data does not necessarily show that it's trending upward. It's a little bit up and down. I am going to stop here because I know my time has expired, but I would like to really dig into this a little bit more with whomever you will direct me to do that.
You bet.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser.
She's taking a breath because she knows what's coming.
I do.
5 years. This is year 5. And so for the benefit of my new colleagues, I feel like I need to say this again. I really appreciate the inclusion of slide 7, which breaks out the percentage of advanced standard and applied studies diplomas. For those, maybe and I apologize if you know this information, so I'm just going to share it. The applied studies diploma is a significantly different type of diploma than the standard or advanced. It is basically a certificate of attendance. It is not a standards-based diploma. It does not mean you can access college. It does not mean you can access federal student aid. I'm not saying we should get rid of it. I'm not saying there isn't a place for it. However, when on slide 4, we're trying to compare different categories of students and how they're achieving on-time graduation, and our students with disabilities percentage includes 3 diploma categories, where every other student's percentage includes 2 diploma categories. It is not an apples-to-apples comparison, and it hides potentially, I don't know because I don't have the number because we don't have it here, it hides potentially the true graduation rate, meaning a standard or advanced diploma to what most of us think of as what a high school graduation is, i.e. you can access college or technical training or get federal student aid to do so. And I'm only sounding like this because I know since you've been here, I've probably lifted this up like 8 times, and I've lifted this up many more times over the course of now going on 5 years. And I understand that Virginia combines those 2 numbers, and that's how we report the data to Virginia. I get that, but this is not being reported to Virginia. This is being informing our own work. And the reason I bring this up is because these percentages inform the need, and the need informs where we put resources. And if the need isn't informed to us accurately, we cannot determine where the resources need to go. So, while I appreciate the step forward of actually admitting we have an applied studies diploma and it impacts numbers, I do not think we can have a chart that shows graduation trends by student group when one has a different set of diplomas than all the rest of them. That's all I'm saying, and I think it's a disingenuous data point that we cannot then base action on. So, and I just say that now because I don't know how else at this point, after this many years, to keep explaining the same thing. So I apologize for my extreme frustration on that slide. However, I will say I really appreciate, I don't want to repeat Dr. Anderson in terms of our Hispanic students and English learners, but I very much agree with her points, and I think we need to really understand the significant differences in how we can help support those students better to help close some of these gaps. I did have one question. I think, Dr. Presidio, I'm sorry if I misunderstood you. You had said at one point that the COVID flexibility, it seemed to imply it was for seniors, right? But the reality is that the COVID flexibility was for anybody who earned a verified credit while they were in high school during that COVID flexibility period. So it might impact those numbers differently than what, and I just wanted to clarify that to make sure that's my understanding.
Yeah, I'd have to actually check and see how many students that weren't graduating seniors applied that flexibility. It was really our seniors who were graduating that was most beneficial for. So I'd have to check and see how many sophomores or juniors in those 2 years period of time. Yeah, I'm not saying that there weren't any. I'm just saying most of that flexibility was really aimed and targeted at students who were going to be graduating that year. But of course, if they suffered during the pandemic and needed to apply some of that flexibility, they had the ability to do that. Off the top of my head, I don't know how many students that might have applied to.
Thank you. I would like to go back just because I had spent so much of my time explaining the same thing again.
And Mr. Frisch, I'd like to take us to slide 7 again, please, because I think I have your data point, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser. If we look at the far right column, on the right side for the diplomas awarded by diploma type, what we tried to do was break out the 2019 to 23 just students with disabilities. So to determine the percentage for our student with disabilities in just the 2 categories, we would take that far right column and just look at the advanced and standard, which would be roughly 86.3% of our students with disabilities would be in those 2 standards. So if we take that 86.3% and put it back into the original 86.3% and put that in the original slide on page 4, we would see that comparison. So I think I apologize for not taking that data point and moving it to the other chart, and we will do that in the future. That, however, is the data point, specifically 86%, which actually, while it's not as high as the 95, it is higher actually than some of our other student subgroups for graduation in those 2 categories.
Can I just respond to that, Mr. Chair? I don't disagree that it's higher or may not be higher. I'm just saying that 94.8 and 83.6 are very different numbers, and that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, and absolutely true. So I just want to make sure we had the number, because it's there.
Actually, that was on my notes earlier that I said we actually have it. We just, anyway, okay. I will stop. I know my time was up. I'll take a go back.
Thank you. Mr. Dunn.
Sorry, first time. So I appreciate the data that you've shared. I think this is data that would benefit from a work session or a much more extensive briefing. I once did a project with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration where they defined even one death in a school bus as unacceptable. So when I look at the on-time graduation rates on slide 2, I ask, what's our plan to get to 100%? Right? I mean, if one death is unacceptable, one student, one child failing to graduate from high school impacts not just that individual, but all of society, right? In terms of opportunity lost. I mean, that could be the next Einstein if they were given the right opportunities and support, right? So I would ask that, you don't have a plan right now, but you develop a plan because every child deserves the opportunity to receive a world-class education. On slide 3, when second bullet says FCPS can celebrate, in bold, a significant reduction in dropout rates over the past 5 years of nearly 2 percentage points, I don't know if it's meant to be humorous or not, because the last 3 years, 2021, 22, 23, reflect increasing dropout rates. And I don't know if that's reflective of the fact that, during the pandemic, to some extent, we made it easier for kids, made it easier for them to pass, and now we're heightening our standards again. But I'd like to have a better understanding of what's driving that.
So, yes, and you will hear the plan. The team does have a plan, but in more detail for the graduation when we do the Goal 5 presentation, which is coming up here, I think, very shortly. To your question, clearly it's not a celebration when it's not where we want it to be. So I apologize for the use of those terms. What I think we talked about just briefly a few minutes ago is this flexibility that the state granted around certain requirements, which I think accounted for the much lower dropout in 2021 of 4.7 and then the 4.8. And as the flexibility is gradually tightened and it's less flexible, I think we've seen a bit of a progression in dropout rates, though we're still lower than we were pre-pandemic. So it's a long way of saying, I think that's the reason why you see the chart the way it is, but we have plenty of work to do. And you'll see the very tight planning that sits in the Goal 5 presentation, because we hope to see for 2024 things going the other direction.
Thank you. With regard to slide 4, I echo the comments of my colleague, Dr. Anderson. It seems we're failing an entire generation of Hispanic and English learner students. And so I think it's absolutely essential that we understand, that we see in writing and we're able to share with our constituents a comprehensive plan, not just something vague and high level, but something concrete with milestones and metrics. And I'd like to understand as part of that, when it says the third bullet on page 4, FCPS high schools identified for central support had more than double the improvements. I'd like to know which high schools, and I'd like to know what exactly was the central support. It shows that, efforts can have success, right?
Correct.
So why aren't we doing that everywhere? If that was the pilot, right, can that be expanded to other high schools? And were any high schools in my district, the Mount Vernon district, identified for central support?
So great questions. We did identify as the beginning for this work 9 high schools, which I will read out for you. The 9 high schools that we identified for support, which was the extra staffing for on-time graduation, were Annandale High School, Centerville High School, Falls Church, Herndon, Justice, Lewis, Mount Vernon, South Lakes, and West Potomac high schools.
Okay. And what did that central support consist of exactly?
The central support consisted of having strategic support from central office as well as on-time graduation staff placed within the school to support outreach for students and working with counseling, administrative, and teaching staff in those schools. Often checking on homes when students stop coming to school, being out in the community. Again, I think Dr. Presidio shared a couple of those strategies, and to Dr. Anderson's point, those were begun in 2019-ish, and we've gradually added more each year as we've been able.
If you have anything written just that Dr. Presidio has briefed previously to anyone, I'd really appreciate getting something in writing. Again, not asking for anything new, but just whatever you have so I can get a more deep understanding.
Yes, sir.
On slide 5, the different award type, the different diploma types, I'd really like to see a breakdown by demographic data to understand, for Black students, for Hispanic students, for English learners, for economically disadvantaged students, who's getting those advanced diplomas, who's not. I'd appreciate if you have any information on applied studies diplomas. I'd like to learn more about that. Again, offline, not necessarily free to provide that.
Yes, sir. Our Goal 5 presentation will have those breakdowns by diploma, by demographic, and the intersectionality data that I know our board is expecting. So Goal 5 will have that.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Mr. Moon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Certainly we still have a lot of work to do, and I don't want to repeat the comments and questions already raised by my colleagues, especially regarding English language learners and Hispanic students. But at the same time, I must emphasize the fact that while in other student groups, we have generally done at least equal to or better than the rest of the state. English language learners and Hispanic students, we are 2% below, state numbers, which is quite concerning, especially when we know the fact that substantial percentage of our student population belongs to those two groups. Correct. And earlier, Dr. Presidio mentioned about intersectionality. Is there a way for the board to get intersectionality information for not just for Fairfax County students, but outside of Fairfax, but in Virginia, non-Fairfax students, so that I can sort of, on my own, be able to analyze, potential reasons behind our Hispanic students, English learners, being below statewide average. i.e., for example, whether our English learners were a substantially higher percentage of students start from level 1 and level 2 as opposed to higher level. Whether, I don't know whether we ever have this kind of data as to whether our Hispanic or English language learners have a more challenges in terms of family support, level of families, financial resources.
So in terms of being able to get Commonwealth-wide data on intersectionality, I know we're going to have the intersectionality data broken out for Goal 5 because staff are working on that right now. But for the comparables for the rest of the Commonwealth, Dr. Presidio, will that data be available?
Well, I have to say welcome back, Mr. Moon. It's a pleasure having you back on the board, and I appreciate those insightful questions as always. Some of the questions that you're asking, we've inquired at the state and have not been able to get that information. But maybe what we could do is work offline on the specific data points that you might be interested in, and then we can do some additional requests at the state level and see what we get. And whatever we do get, we can share with the full board.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That is all for now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Moon. Ms. Dixit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Reed, there are a lot of reasons there are dropouts, and as we can see, there's among Hispanic students, English learners. One of the factors what I feel is when there is no hope, when the students feel that even finishing the diploma or finishing high school doesn't lead to anything. So are we doing anything, working with the students, showing them the career pathways, or working one-on-ones, showing them the kind of a roadmap after graduation, what are the opportunities? Not everybody want to go to college, but like trade school. And I feel some of the students don't get those insight or advice from their homes. So they're probably looking at the schools and the counselors, and maybe some need more than others. So my question would be just to what are we doing about that? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dixit. I think you're getting to the why, right? Like, why do I come every day, and to what am I preparing for, and how is this relevant for me, right, as a student? So I think one of our big challenges, I think, in the county that I hear from students is our academy courses, which many students find to be very relevant and very exciting, are often not accessible. Because of the length of transportation, or they fill up quickly. I think you and I have spoken a little about that. The courses fill up, and the wait lists, and so many students are not able to access those courses. So I think one of the challenges we're going to need to think through as a board and superintendent and staff team is how to create more opportunities that really are going to match the career choices of our future. So, because I think once that relevance, the motivation is different, and perhaps we will see those higher rates because it matters more to a young person, for example. So there are many strategies that are going to improve the data we're looking at, and I don't think it's going to be one strategy for every student, but I think what you're raising is something that is an inspiring strategy rather than we're going to send somebody to your home every day, right? So I appreciate that insight.
Thank you. Are you finished? Thank you, Ms. Dixit. Ms. Lady?
Thank you, Mr. Frisch. I'm glad you brought up academies, Dr. Reed. I had written that down. As someone who spent the majority of my career, except for the 1 year I worked in McLean, I worked in an academy. I would count TJ as one as well. I chose those specifically. I chose those schools because of the opportunity. And it's true. For some of our students, they are looking forward to an auto tech or a cosmetology or carpentry course, and it will retain them. It will keep them. And as someone who built the master schedule at Chantilly for 15 years, it pained me to no end to have a numerous number of students on a wait list knowing what what that was going to be. So I think we need to be nimble. I think we need to think. I don't know whether or not it's possible with the fact that high school start times are 8:05. I mean, is it a possibility to flex a day within our academies because we only have so much space within those labs? Could we have a period for kids that's after school? Could we start at 7 for kids who want to come in? Could we, some of these academy teachers already have an AT contract, which I think in terms of time of instruction, I think we need to look at that from an economic perspective, to be honest, because of transportation, but I'm getting in a rabbit hole there. But I also watched in my tenure us transformed, sort of this pendulum went at one point from the wanting to make these governor STEM academies. And I recollect that in order to be governor STEM academy, that you had to teach core classes, which also took up academy space. I would argue that while they are fantastic classes, I'm not going to name any specifically because I don't need my phone to blow up from former colleagues, but we do need to do something so that we have more classroom space and so we can cater to some of these students who are looking for a trade and looking to us to help provide that trade. The other thing I want to mention to my colleagues, and I don't know that you can tease this out, is our SLIFE students. We have a lot of students with limited or interrupted formal education. So I just need my colleagues to understand that a lot of students come and enroll with us and they have not been educated in their own country. So they might come to us at 15 years old and they have never been in school in their life. And we do the best we can to see those kids for who they are, to honor them and to begin to work with them. And the other thing is, as we know, we have an issue with attendance at an epidemic level. And obviously there's a direct correlation between being in school and being able to achieve. So I don't know if it's a possibility for that intersectionality of the folks that are dropping out, but it's been my experience when I worked while we drove and picked students up from school, our social workers, our counselors, administrators. We do a lot to try to get kids in our building, but really, truly, it's just the absenteeism for a lot of our students that leads to that failure. So again, my biggest thing is just that I think we need to be creative and nimble because we have limited spaces, but maybe we can figure out a way to teach courses maybe before after school so we can have more students access those courses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like board members to turn their lights off, just in case. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser wants to go back. Go ahead.
I apologize to my colleagues. I normally don't take go-backs for this, but spending time explaining the same point again takes a lot of my 3 minutes. A couple questions. I appreciate the information about the 9 high schools with the central office support staff. I'm curious, that's separate from the Twilight program, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I'd be curious on data on the schools that have the Twilight program, and I think it's newer, so maybe we don't have the data as much yet, but it would be good to know, since we have 2 different programs to help support, which one is more effective, right? In terms of when we're looking again at resources, of which one we want to expand or not expand.
Correct.
So I think that, or maybe a third option, but that would be helpful because obviously there are some real disparities in on-time graduation. I do want to point out, I think, I can't remember which of my colleagues, I apologize, mentioned Virginia versus FCPS, and I did notice that our English language learners are percentage-wise double in the state. The state is 10.9% and we are 20.5%. So that is a big difference that might impact that number a bit. To go back to what I was talking about before, there's a couple of data points that I'd like to see. I appreciate that you added the numbers. Actually, it was on my list saying we have the data. I'm not sure why we didn't put it there.
We will next time.
Yeah, and I think that kind of highlights my point, right?
Yeah.
That's, I think you said 83%?
86.
86. So that's 8 percentage points different than what's here. So I think that's just important to know. I would like to know, I think Dr. Presidio mentioned the locally awarded verified credit. I know there's also the special permission locally awarded verified credit, and I'd love to get some sense of how much that's been used to help students with disabilities achieve a standard or advanced diploma, because that was the purpose of that special. It's called the SPLVAC, which is a terrible acronym, but I know. So I'm happy to send this in writing, but I think that would be helpful because that is a tool and it's a alternate way to get a verified credit that was supposed to help students achieve a standard diploma if, of course, they qualify for that. And just really quickly, one last data point that I'd love to have. You mentioned something about students receiving a standard advanced diploma after the applied studies. I'd love to know how many do that, and what
Yes.
the percentage is after year 12. Thank you, that's it.
All right, yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Frisch.
We will now move on to agenda item 3.03, Student Representative Matters.
Thank you, Mr. Frisch. Good evening, everyone, and a happy warm welcome to our returning and new school board members. I'm excited about the opportunity to collaborate with each of you in the upcoming months, delving into your individual goals and collectively working with you towards the continuous improvement of our school district. Just this past Wednesday, Fairfax County student equity leaders, known as SEALs, convened and delved into their respective committees. Discussions included the creation of transparent information about post-secondary opportunities, addressing the challenges posed by resources like Naviance that may cause confusion among students due to its navigational complexities. Besides that, the Multilingual Inclusion Committee is actively engaged in promoting extracurriculars such as clubs and sports to ESOL students, recognizing the importance of inclusivity for all of our students. These dedicated student equity leaders have formed 8 committees, each focusing on various topics. While it may be challenging to cover all the issues they are addressing tonight, I strongly encourage our esteemed leadership to attend these meetings, gaining invaluable insight into the student perspective. Understanding these perspectives is crucial, as effective change cannot be realized without such understanding. Also within SEALs, the STEM committee has begun a noteworthy initiative called TIE Connects. Their mission is to bridge the gap in 21st century skills like STEM, CS, and AI, which are essential for our students' preparation in various work fields. Commencing next week, a team of Robinson students will be teaching at Laurel Ridge Elementary, followed by a program at Brookfield Elementary in February taught by students from Chantilly. They have been actively involved in teaching not only at local libraries, but other educational institutions, and also collaborating with FCPS schools to provide specialized instruction specifically to Title I schools. Turning our attention to the Superintendent Advisory Council, they have diligently formed 5 unique committees specifically aligned with our strategic plan. During my engagement with these committees, one significant concern stood out: school security. Students are expressing valid concerns about the insufficient frequency of lockdown drills, prompting a need for enhanced preparedness in various scenarios. It is evident that the current 2 lockdown drills per year might not adequately prepare students for potential threats. While we conduct 1 fire drill monthly, the limited frequency of lockdown drills doesn't match the urgency and importance of preparing students for various safety scenarios. Therefore, increasing the number of lockdown drills becomes imperative to enhance their readiness and response in critical situations. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, and Happy New Year. All right, agenda item 3.04, Superintendent Matters. I call on Dr. Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Frisch. Just want to say, with our new year and our first regular meeting of our new school board, I'd like to start by saying welcome aboard, and it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to serve you. Looking forward to our work ahead as we realize the goals of our strategic plan and meeting the needs and supporting all of our students, staff, and families. I know that the data we shared tonight is one data point, one particular piece of Goal 5, but it's one we're taking very seriously. And I believe that our plans that we'll share during our Goal 5 presentation and the progress we're making this year will be evidence of that. And I appreciate your attention to the detail of that. That's our mission. That's mission critical work here at this time. Also want to thank many of you who showed up last night and many of our community members for our opioid community awareness night. I want to especially thank Mr. and Mrs. Foster for joining us last night, and our 3 principals, Ms. Rogers, Mr. Kashaba, and Ms. A from Fairfax High School. Goodness, I knew if I didn't have it in front of me, I was going to mess this up. Fairfax and I was going to say Mount Vernon and South County. There you go. And other principals were there, but those 3 principals had an opportunity to speak on stage about their experiences. Very sobering, and we do care so deeply about the health and safety of our students, and just really appreciate also our Fairfax County Police Chief and our support staff that were there to help with that event last night. Big shout out to the Oakton High School Marching Band. I want to congratulate our Marching Cougars who won the inaugural marching band competition sponsored by Metallica, which there's some great tagline for Metallica. What was that tagline? Something about, I can't remember what the tagline is. So also want to give a shout out to two of our esports teams that recently won the Virginia High School League Championship Tournament. Our teams from Centerville and Woodson High School, and we're thrilled about that. Woodson High School won the Rocket League Championship, and Centerville won the League of Legends Championship. Congratulations to players and coaches, and that's a great career preparation for those folks who want to get into the gaming industry. Also enjoyed a Hornet basketball game last Friday night. Our Herndon Hornets played our Marshall Statesmen, and I know we had other board members out at other basketball games. It's definitely a great time to get out and watch some hoops. Dual language immersion program, the countywide lottery will open Monday, January 22nd. So for those community members, please note the registration and plan to take a look at that at this time. Academy open houses are occurring right now. And also want to give a shout out that with Martin Luther King Day on Monday, there is no school. So do remember Monday, no school. For those of you excited who might be planning to come, but we are excited to collaborate with Volunteer Fairfax for the Day of Service, the Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service. Students and families can volunteer together with children ages 5 to 12, and it's designed to have a family event. Student ages 13 to 18 are welcome to serve as teen event volunteers. It's free and open to the public. Registration is required, but it'll be great to see many of you out there. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Agenda item 3.05, proposed financial year 2025-2029 capital improvement program. I call on Dr. Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Frisch. I'd like to, for our proposed FY 25-29 capital improvement program presentation, I'd like to call on our Chief Facility Services and Capital Programs person, Janice Zeminski, to present that report.
Good evening. Tonight we are going to cover a summary of the presentation on the proposed capital improvement program for fiscal years 25 through 29. At a high level, a capital improvement program is a planning and fiscal management tool used to coordinate the location, timing, and funding of projects over 5 years. The cash flow is submitted to the county for incorporation into the larger Fairfax County CIP. The FCPS CIP includes an annual review of student membership and facilities data to identify capital projects. Newly identified needs are included in the estimated schedule of capital projects for the next 5 years, and the capital cash flow tracks the funding allocation for these projects. As a part of this, updated membership information is done by division and by schools and is included in the CIP. This is based on September certified membership. For this school year, 23-24, total membership as of September was 180,806 students. We continue to monitor the impacts of the membership from the pandemic, and it remains under the school year 19-20 by 8,204 students. 3 main factors that contribute to the changes in membership include the birth to kindergarten ratio, the migration of students, and the transfer of students. Data for these 3 factors have been included in the slides at the end of this presentation for reference. The CIP also includes membership projections. Total membership is projected to remain relatively flat within the 5-year projection period of school year 28-29 to about 799,000 students. These are due to overall decline in membership since the COVID-19 pandemic began. It includes lower births and a decline of elementary and middle school cohorts over time. The largest cohorts of classes in FCPS are currently in the 10th and 11th grades. The Fairfax County Demographic Report confirms this trend with a decline in the school-age population between 2020 and 2025. With the recent decline and ongoing changes in membership, it's important to highlight the projections are updated annually in the CIP to reflect changing conditions. This slide gives us an overview of our funding. So funding sources for the capital projects in the CIP include the general obligation bond as voted on by residents in the biannual school bond referendum. The annual limit for general obligation bond funding has increased over time. The most recent increase is a result of the joint CIP committee in 2021. This increased the annual allocation to $205 million per year and another increase to $230 million per year in FY25 and beyond. We thank Fairfax County and the Board of Supervisors for their continued partnership, which resulted in an increase in funding to support FCPS capital projects. As a result of escalation in the construction industry, FCPS continues to monitor these costs as they relate to FCPS capital projects. Additional funds that impact the CIP include the FCPS operating funds, funds from the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors for infrastructure management and the capital sinking fund, and proffers. This graphic shows information on the FCPS staff review in collaboration with the county planning staff of countywide residential development beyond 5 years. To identify impacts on school facilities, staff monitors new residential development during a plan amendment, which is a review process for the Fairfax County Comprehensive Plan, the review process of rezoning applications, and as part of the 5-year membership projection set developed and included in each year's CIP. Next slide. So these are the types of projects you'll see in a CIP. It includes new school construction, capacity enhancements, facility renovations, which is usually the bulk of the work, and potential sites which are defined on this slide. Here's some examples of recently completed projects from our past CIPs, and up on the screen here, we have Braddock, Fox Mill, Hybla Valley, and the renovation at Frost Middle School. This slide summarizes the capital projects identified in the capital construction cash flow for this year. Within the next 5 years, these include new construction projects of Dunloring Elementary School, capacity enhancement at Justice High School, and the relocation of 3 modular buildings, and the renovation of 21 schools, including 18 elementary, 2 middle, and 2 high schools. Looking within the next 10 years, the capital projects included are new construction and/or repurposing of the Silver Line Elementary School, Western High School, Route 1 Pinewood Lakes Early Childhood Center, Tyson's Elementary, and the new repurposing of Pimmitt Hills and Virginia Hills. Renovations include 2 new elementary schools from the existing queue and site acquisition for Western High School. A summary of funding for these projects is on this slide. The total 5-year funding requirement is approximately $1.2 billion. Approximately $533 million is currently funded by bonds, and approximately $710 million is unfunded and wouldn't be included on future bond referenda. The total 10-year requirement is approximately $2.5 billion. Approximately $578 million is funded by bonds, and approximately $1.9 billion is unfunded and would be included on future bond referenda. Impacts to the schedule of projects that we often see year over would be construction bids reflecting the state of the market. Recent bids right now do average 33% over cost estimates, and projects were either value engineered to reduce the cost and still needed to access the construction reserve, which was established by past project savings. The increase in the county's bond allocation to schools is going towards the increased costs, and we'll note that it's not sufficient to cover the increases. Additional cost increases are also impacting costs. These include inflation, prevailing wage legislation, environmental priorities, and labor materials needed to meet project schedules. Priorities will need to be given as renovations are being deferred as part of the result of a funding shortfall. This slide here gives an overview of what a typical project timeline and duration would look like. So for capital projects, they're listed in the CIP and provided on an annual basis. The school bond referendum is on the ballot every other year on the odd years for us. Architectural services are procured via a request for proposals or an RFP with information on project assignments provided to the board during the process. Design of bond approved projects kick off in the spring following the vote, and this phase lasts a couple years depending on the size and the project. The construction phase is started with the school board approval of contractor selection, and along the way there are many school and community meetings throughout the project timeline, and we've been working closely with the CPDC committee to standardize that. This slide shows the process for development of a new renovation queue. The current renovation queue is anticipated to have funding for planning and design through 2031 with updated costs and planning and planned bond referenda. So we're still in the current queue that we've been working through. A new renovation queue will need to be developed for future renovations. This will occur in phases, of which phase 1 is currently underway. A consultant has developed a framework for work needed to develop, and once the criteria is set, phase 2 will be able to assess the criteria developed in phase 1. And then phase 3 will be to implement the new queue, which would be incorporated in future CIPs and bond referenda when complete. This is a little bit of an update on some of our JET goals, especially as it pertains to net zero energy. So the 2020 JET recommendation called for new county buildings and major renovations to achieve net zero energy practices. These enhancements will typically include photovoltaic or solar arrays, ground source heat pumps from geothermal wells, and other features. Active design and construction projects maximize net zero practices where ready and possible, and we build not to preclude future installations. An example of this might be creating enough structure to allow for future solar projects. Future projects starting in FY26 and beyond include in the CIP funding for major energy reduction measures to gain a possible on-site net zero energy ready. This includes building in, again, that structure for solar readiness, the ground source heat pumps or a geothermal system, and increased insulation beyond code to make sure we have a very energy efficient building. Looking beyond just the net zero and the energy reduction piece, we are committed to sustainability. So here's some highlights with FCPS shown on this slide, and include Get to Green, energy conservation, solar energy projects, net zero chips design, and electric vehicle conversion. I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about our building infrastructure and maintenance. So the current cycle between big renovations is approximately 42 years at this point. This is much longer than the 20 to 25-year renovation cycle identified in Policy 8258. This longer renovation cycle does require infrastructure investments in building assets at shorter intervals to support system life expectancy. So this slide shows all the infrastructure assets by category and notes those past the useful life by average age. The table also includes the estimated total replacement cost. To clarify, this is the total replacement cost, not just the ones past their useful life. That's included on the next slide that we can move to. This slide provides a breakdown of the cost of infrastructure replacement requirements by type for the next 5 years. We condensed it down into 4 major categories, and as you can see, the total assets that we calculate past their useful life is approximately $379 million. And so as we wrap up, here's some upcoming dates to show you where we are. We had our work session on January 9th. Today we are here at the school board meeting, and we're going through new business. On January 18th, we'll have a public hearing, and then on February 8th, we'll have school board action. And mid-February, the Fairfax County releases their CIP, and we will be included as part of that. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Szymanski. Up first, we have Dr. Anderson.
Thank you. I know we talked about some of these things during the work session last Tuesday, but because we have usually a larger audience for these meetings, I'm hoping that you can reiterate certain points. One, I think Mr. Muick was the one who delivered this news regarding electric buses. I'm sure the community would like to hear what the division was able to secure in the past week or so.
Yes, ma'am. Glad to share that. We're always looking for grants to get more electric buses right now, and our goal is to be, completely electric bus by 2035. But we recently received approval on a grant from the EPA for $16.5 million, which will get us 42 more electric buses. And there's another one due at the end of the month that we're putting the final touches on right now.
And that's notable. Thank you so much for sharing, because those
Yes,
42
ma'am.
buses will be more than what we have currently in the entire electric fleet, which is 37?
31.
31, okay. I was a little bit more generous there. The other thing, Ms. Zeminski, that I'd like for you to speak to, because again, our community is watching this more than they do the work sessions, and there's always the cry for, when is my school going to get on the renovation queue? Obviously, I have schools which I named last week, so did so many of my colleagues. Wayanoke, Belvedere, and Luther Jackson, where we stand right now, are the schools that I've named. Can you please share with the public what is it that you all are going to be doing with those requests?
Sure. In terms of adding schools to the queue, right now we're still working under past guidance, which is to first go through all of the schools developed in the queue starting in 2008. So the CIP that goes fiscal year 25 through 29 is still working through that original queue. And during this time, we'll have the ability to identify a new queue, so every school that was already completed can be put back into a new order. And the goal is to have that completed before the current queue is up, so that we can go right into the next round of schools.
And you expect that the current queue will be exhausted by my retirement, your retirement?
It will not be completed by this 5-year CIP, but we expect it to be completed within the next 10 years.
Okay, 10 years, thank you. And other issues that the community has raised, Dr. Reed, regarding athletic fields, safety and security measures. I know at the work session we talked about establishing other queues. Again, just for our public, can you reiterate what will be coming from staff work along those lines?
Yes, ma'am. We're looking at an athletic queue. Traditionally, in Fairfax County, we haven't looked at athletic facilities when we've done, excuse me, major renovations or remodels. We're also looking at security queues. We have a number of security projects. So both of those queues will be in addition to a holistic review of our facility queue.
And that's in addition to the traffic safety queue, which was one of last year's follow-on CIP budgets. Lastly, and this is kind of the big question, because everybody saw the big circle, and I know that Mr. McDaniel raised some really good points regarding that, which I'm hoping he will reiterate here this evening. But no matter what, our needs outpace our resources. How is FCPS trying to procure additional funding? Because we can't do this alone. What else? How else can we diversify our revenue streams in order to attack all of the projects that you've outlined?
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point. I think the first thing we have to do is maximize the resources that we do have. So definitely making sure we're getting the most value for the dollars we spend. If it's how we award our contracts, how we negotiate, we're definitely going to be looking at ways to maximize the dollars that we have. And then I do agree we need to look beyond that, because we do note a definite need for resources. So we look forward to exploring different partnerships, different ways to expand our revenue.
Thank you so much. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Mr. McDaniel?
So Dr. Anderson we probably read my minds, because I had the big scary circle pulled up and I see that it's up. So I want to, just for public purposes, this number of the unfunded does not include anything that we've identified that we need to have in terms of capacity, correct?
This number only reflects the cash flow, so that queue that you see primarily of renovations and some small, or any site acquisition or new building, it does not include the useful life of the infrastructure piece.
Okay, which is, I think that was an extra about $1.4 billion as well.
Yes,
Okay.
with of it, about 380 currently being past its useful life.
Okay. And the red portion of both of these circles does not mean to imply that we do not know where the money is coming from. This is simply noting that the bonds have yet to be authorized on the ballot, but we anticipate
Correct.
the funding for the bonds. Okay.
Correct. This is just at this point in time with the referendum that have been passed to date. We cash flowed it out with the expected passing of bonds for this to fully become blue over the 5-year cycle.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mr. McDaniel. Mr. Dunn?
Thank you, Mr. Szymanski. You know, I think we talked about this quite a bit in the open session on Tuesday, but elaborating on some points made by my colleague, Dr. Anderson, I think it's essential that you've been 4 months in the job and you bring a lot of great experience. But it's essential that we look at how we can do business differently. And I'd like to emphasize the importance of public-private partnerships. One was used to build South County High School. Other counties in our region and nationally have used them to build a whole suite of schools, you know, up to a dozen schools at a time, and then sign contracts for contractors to maintain them over 30 years, which, you know, gives the benefit to taxpayers and the school system of having a fixed price, right? And puts the risk, the onus of managing that risk on the contractor rather than on the system. I think it's also important to look at expanding multi-use facilities. The Lord Community Action Center combines athletic facilities with main facilities with a library. We should also be in discussions with the county about that actively. I also want to emphasize the importance of, as a government contracting attorney, of best procurement practices. A lot of what I've seen with FCPS is, you know, good efforts, but not the sophistication I would expect given the you know, decades of experience and the billions of dollars that get spent annually. Every dollar should achieve maximum return on investment. Taxpayers in Fairfax County simply can't bear to continue having increasing property tax rates to compensate for the underfunding by our state government and federal government. And I also want to emphasize on pages 15 to 16 and 17, we have a long infrastructure list. And I want to ask you to please make sure that you're undertaking a comprehensive audit, not random sampling for statistical purposes, but of every school, because I can tell you on my side of the county, Mount Vernon District, there's high inequity compared to the schools on the western side of the county. It's almost night and day. And we need to make sure that all of these facilities, athletic fields, elevators, dugouts, scoreboards, and HVAC systems get updated. And so looking at how to buy in bulk, right, using economies of scale rather than just one-off purchase after one-off purchase can actually reap significant discounts, especially with multi-year contracts. Again, I'm a government contracting attorney. I can tell you firsthand that contractors will give you those discounts if they have certainty of cash flow. So I am happy to work with you both through CPDC and FPAC and through other means to make sure that FCPS increases the sophistication of its organization so it gets more bang for its buck and reduces the fiscal burden and the risk imposed on Fairfax County taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser.
Just a brief question to follow up on Mr. McDaniel. I want to just be clear on that slide number 10, that red circle in the blue, that total is what the road requirement is, just a requirement based on our anticipated bond numbers, right? It's not what we require to have best practices in terms of renovations, right? We're currently on a 42-year renovation cycle, and best practices, I believe, are 25. So I just want to clarify that slide in terms of we're budgeting our requirements to what we anticipate, the funding we anticipate.
Correct. The 1.2 is what we anticipate to get, so the cash flow is reflected accordingly.
Okay, I just wanted to, make that clarify for the public, that there's requirements we have to kind of get up to what we may consider best practices or help be more efficient with our systems, and then there's requirements in terms of the cash flow equalizing with that. Did I capture that correctly?
Yes, you're
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser. Mr. McElveen.
Thank you, Mr. Frisch. It's interesting because every time we come to these presentations, we just have more shocks thrown at us. And, comparing this presentation to ones that Mr. Moon and I would have seen 8 years ago, 4 years ago, it's just surprising that we've gone in the other direction that we were anticipating. And I would argue that we have, in Fairfax County, kind of ebbed and flowed when it's come to facilities, but we have probably not seen a crisis like the one we have now since the late 1940s, early 50s, and the post-war boom. We had a few good years when Sandy, Robin, and I were in our schools when we weren't having capacity issues and we were actually closing down schools, but we are not in those days anymore. So the three shocks that I wanted to highlight, and I've highlighted previously, if you take three things away from this presentation, I want it to be these three. First, as you've heard, the 42-year renovation cycle, which is an increase from where we were previously. The 33% cost overruns that we're seeing on our projects, and the fact that we only have 2 schools slated for solar panels after 4 years ago having promised the county 87. So these are concerns. I'm not going to belabor them at this late hour, but they were shocks to me coming back in.
Thank you, Mr. McElveen. I'm going to take my turn. Thank you very much for the presentation and all the hard work that went into it. I agree with Mr. McElveen about the renovation cycle. It's disappointing, especially we had this brief moment where it looked like we were going in the other direction, right? We came on, some of us joined this board 4 years ago, and it was 37 years. And the Board of Supervisors saw fit to provide us with more money in the bond. And that money would have brought us probably to 35 years, a renovation cycle, finally progress in the other direction. And then COVID, and as you articulated, the big increase in construction costs and labor and everything else has pushed projects past the 30% mark, as I discussed in the last CIP. So all is not bad, though. I did a calculation based on various years' CIPs and found that 1/3 of the instructional trailers used in Providence District have been removed since 2020. I know that countywide, I haven't done everybody's district. I know that countywide, we've reduced the number of trailers significantly as well. That's the direction we need to be going in, so I encourage that. And then I also want to endorse, this CIP, when the board made the Joint Environmental Task Force directives to move us towards net zero schools and buses and the whole like, to show that we take the climate crisis seriously. This CIP is the first CIP that makes an honest attempt at moving in that direction, and I applaud you for that. So thank you very much for doing that. And I look forward to partnering with you in the years ahead to continue making that progress. So thank you. Forgot I was chair for a second. Are the lights up because we want go-backs or because we just forgot to turn them off? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Uh,
Oh, sorry, we have one more. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser.
Just really quick, I actually appreciate Mr. McElveen's statements of what's happened in the last 4 years, and I know the entire country and world are struggling with the cost overruns from COVID and the supply chain issues. I guess so the question I would ask is, do you know, or are we going to continue to see supply chain issues and the cost overruns due to some things for COVID? Are things getting better? Or do we anticipate some of that coming down as things sort of more normalized? I just kind of curious what your forecast is. I know, as Mr. Frisch said, we inherited a 37-year renovation cycle, which is, well above the 25 years that we should be at. We worked the Board of Supervisors, and I'm so grateful that we were able to get it down to 35 for a brief instant before everything kind of hit the fan. And so I'm just kind of curious, coming out of this now, is there some sort of rainbow? Is there some sort of bright lights that we can look towards? Is there something positive that we have, or are we anticipating these kind of overruns are going to last for a little bit longer?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, unfortunately.
Really?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
But I do think it's important that we stay really in tune with the marketplace. So that's something that, since coming on board, I've been trying to do on a regular basis, even if it's just bringing in general contractors we're working with, take aside the project that we're working on and just ask how the marketplace is doing, not just with their level, but also the subcontractor markets. So I think it's just really important and prudent that we just stay on top to the best knowledge that we can, and no better way than keeping up with the local marketplace. The feedback I've been getting is that we don't see it going down anytime soon. I think the inflation is up and now we're at a rise. And I will say I understand this is probably not the information people want to see with the rise in costs, but we are here to be as transparent as possible, and we will keep you informed of how the marketplace progresses. And the best thing we can do is catch it as early as we can and predict it out in our cash flows so we're making the right choices strategically.
The last thing I'll just lift up, I know it's late, is that the reason I asked that question is if we're not seeing a potential change, and obviously I know you don't have a crystal ball, right? And I appreciate the work you're doing to try to stay ahead of it as much as possible, then perhaps we need to work, I'm sure your team's already looking at this, perhaps work with FPAC on, do we need to change our practices or expectations or something to adapt to the changing environment, right? Because I don't think what we're doing now is sustainable in terms of expectations. Maybe it's design changes, maybe it's, as I think Ms. Marin mentioned, doing some renovation. I don't know the answer, but I'm just wondering at what point are we like, this is our new world, and so we have to adapt to it, or we're waiting for things to maybe shift in a little more favorable direction. I just wanted to lift that up. I don't expect you to have an answer to that right now, but just a thought.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser. Mr. Moon.
Mr. Chairman, could you remind us when you are taking on action on this one? February
8th, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
February 18th, and we have a retreat coming up with the Board of Supervisors. Since you are the
January
chair,
17th.
Has agenda been finalized?
Yes, and it was shared in the chair's notes today.
And then whether this will be part of, in any fashion, to be shared with the Board of Supervisors?
Yes, there's ample opportunity for us to talk on the areas that we need to be partnering on.
That is wonderful. I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you, Mr. Moon. All right. Thank you, Ms. Szymanski.
Thank you.
Our adopted rules of Parliament, agenda item 4, consent agenda. Our adopted rules of parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rules, provide for a consent agenda listing several items for approval of the board by a single motion. Many items listed have gone through board review, and documentation has been provided to all board members and the public in advance. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member prior to meeting. The consent agenda items are on the screen. Is there an objection to approving the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Frisch.
To what item on the consent agenda do you object?
I object to agenda items 4.01, 4.02, 4.03, 4.04, 4.08, and 4.09.
Items 4.01, 4.02, 4.03, 4.04, 4.08, and 4.09 have been objected to. Are there any objections to discussing these items and voting on them as one main motion? Seeing none, there are no objections. We will consider adopting items 4.01, 4.02, 4.03, 4.04, 4.08, and 4.09 as a group.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just before considering the questions that were objected to, you will need to first dispose of the remainder of the consent calendar.
All right. So, the items that remain on the consent agenda are 4.05, 4.06, 4.07, 4.10, and 4.11. Is there any objection to approving the current consent agenda? Hearing there is no objection, the consent agenda is approved, and we will move on to the motion that we were
I
just
don't think
discussing.
there is 4.11.
Did I just make that up?
No, it's there. There's a 4.11. It's just the advisory committee commitments. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I am not clear on what was just approved through the consent.
Nothing's, well, the items that were not objected to were approved.
Okay.
Thank you. All right.
Was that just voted on?
The items that were not objected to get handled first, and then we move on to the objections. And we just approved the items that are still on the consent agenda. So here we go. There are no objections to the question of adopting items 4.01, 4.02, 4.03, 4.04, 4.08, 4.09, and 4.11. And we will start. We will start the discussion. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. You're recognized.
And per the parliamentarian, I don't know if we did it in the right order, because you did the reverse first, and then don't you have to do the? Don't you have to do it?
I'm not sure what you mean.
The parliamentarian said you have to do the consent agenda first. And
We
then
did
the
that.
items. Right. But then, yeah, don't you have to go back and ask if there are objections to treating the objected to items as a group or not?
We did that as well.
But didn't you do that before?
Yes.
The chair may just want to ask if there are any objections to treating them as a group.
Are there any objections to treating them as a group?
Yes.
All right, then we will handle them individually. Buckle up. All right, we will start with item 4.01, Alternative Accreditation Plan 2024. Is there discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
I object to agenda item 4.01. Specifically, I object to the inclusion of the alternative accreditation plans on the consent agenda. We have had recent discussions concerning the Key Center, the Kilmer Center, the Adult High School, Bryan High School, and Mountain View High School, at a time when many schools are experiencing an explosion of student misbehavior and misconduct, which we witnessed recently at a Sandburg Middle School Security and Safety Forum. These schools form a critical part of the FCPS toolbox for ensuring every child has access to a safe, welcoming, drug-free, and violence-free learning environment. And in my view, it would be irresponsible to blindly approve alternative accreditation plans that have not been briefed to or discussed by this board. These alternative accreditation plans highlight some troubling data, such as Bryant High School being composed of over 70% Hispanic and English learner students. Whether these schools are achieving their mission is of the highest importance because they represent an extraordinary fiscal expenditure and they serve students who require extraordinary support. So I respectfully object because I believe this is a subject that does require careful examination to ensure that we have the appropriate data and the proper understanding before these alternative accreditation plans are approved.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Mr. Moon, your light is on. Do you intend to have your light on? All right. There being no further discussion, the question is on adopting 4.01 Alternative Accreditation Plan 2024. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. All those opposed, well, we haven't gotten there yet. All those in favor? Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Mr. McDaniel, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Lady, Ms. St. John Cunning, Ms. Anderson, Dr. Anderson, Ms. Dixit, Mr. Moon. All those opposed? Mr. Dunn?
Mr. Chairman, I didn't vote
I'm
affirmative.
sorry. Are you voting?
I'm
in-
abstaining.
Okay.
Mr. Frisch, did you capture Ms. Marin? I'm sorry if I missed that.
We're going to redo the vote because there was some confusion. All those in favor of approving item 4.01 Alternative Accreditation Plan 2024, please raise your hand. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Mr. McDaniel, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Lady, Ms. St. John Cunning, Dr. Anderson, Ms. Dixit. All opposed? Mr. Dunn? Oh, sorry, I see Ms. Marin is voting in the affirmative as well. All those opposed? Mr. Dunn? Abstentions? Mr. Moon? The item passes. All right, moving on. We will move on to item 4.02, Amendment of Contract WDDP and Associates, Construction Testing and Inspection Services for Cooper Middle School. Is there discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
This contract states that it is being increased by approximately 125% and it attributes the cause to contractor delays. The fact that we are giving the contractor more money, a significant increase in the contract because of its own failure to perform in accordance with the contract, I find troubling. And I committed during my campaign to work tirelessly to ensure every taxpayer dollar achieves maximum return on investment. As a government contracting attorney, this contract and others appear to indicate that FCPS is not utilizing best procurement practices to ensure the cost-effective use of taxpayer money. At a time of increasing budget constraints, I believe it's important for the board to ensure that every dollar is effectively spent. Ms. Szymanski has stated that construction costs are rising by 133%. Here they are increasing, and we are not examining the reasons why.
Dr. Anderson.
Yes, can I ask staff to speak to this a little bit, just to provide some greater context, because we're engaging in an exercise that's going to look a little bit wonky to the public at this point. So I think it might behoove us to take a little bit of time and offer some additional information that may respond to Mr. Dunn's inquiries. So I'm not sure.
So to respond to this specific inquiry, I think the agenda item detail has the description of due to the delays. I'll ask Ms. Szymanski to elaborate on this.
Sure. I'm happy to provide some more context. These contract amendments for WDP and ECS, these are for our third-party inspector contracts. So it's not the general contractor. These would be the folks that would inspect the work to make sure it's in compliance that we need for occupancy. So the delays in the construction is more of a result of the general contractor. And I'm happy to follow up and give you more information on Cooper and some of these other schools listed. But because the general contractor has prolonged the construction duration, these third-party inspectors are having to spend more time out there as well. So that's not at the fault of the third-party inspectors. So we do feel like there is an entitlement to be paid. And so that's why you're seeing the contract amendment proposed here.
I withdraw my objection.
Without objection, the objection is withdrawn. All right, we'll move on to the next one.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
Do you want to vote on it?
Mr. Moon, it's been withdrawn without objection.
But Mr.
Oh, that's correct. We have to vote it. Thank you very much, because it's already been withdrawn from the consent agenda. All right. There being no further discussion, the question is on adopting 4.02, Amendment of Contract WDP and Associates Construction Testing and Inspection Services for Cooper Middle School. All those in favor of approving this, raise your hand. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Mr. McDaniel, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Lady, Ms. St. John Cunning, Mr. Dunn, Dr. Anderson, Ms. Dixit, Mr. Moon, and Ms. Marin. That's unanimous. Moving on. Next up, item 4.03, Amendment of Contract WDP and Associates Construction Testing and Inspection Services for Oak Hill Elementary School. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Well, I'd like Ms. Szymanski, if possible, to provide a similar explanation. The only details included in the one-pager we received is phasing delays. Is this a similar situation where a general contractor caused delays that then the inspector endured increased costs as a result?
That is correct.
Was the general contractor held accountable in any fashion for its delays?
This project is ongoing, so I will need to get more information from my team on the corrective actions that we're taking right now.
Understood. I withdraw.
The objection has been withdrawn again, and we will, if with no objection to the withdrawal, we'll move on to the vote. All right. There being no further discussion, the question is on adopting 4.03, Amendment of Contract WDP and Associates Construction, Testing, and Inspection Services for Oak Hill Elementary School. All those in favor? Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Mr. McDaniel, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Lady, Ms. St. John Cunning, Mr. Dunn, Dr. Anderson, Ms. Dixit, Mr. Moon, and Ms. Marin. That is unanimous. Moving on to the next item. Item 4.04, Amendment Contract ECS Mid-Atlantic LLC, Construction Testing and Inspection Services for Louise Archer Elementary School. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
I'd again like to ask Ms. Szymanski, because the proposed 175% increase in the contract value is not explained at all, except to note additional services requested. I'd like to ask for additional information be provided to the board, given that this is a significant expenditure.
My response is similar to that of the ones of WDP. This ECS is also a third-party testing agent, so any delays or additional calls out to the site brought forth by the general contractor, it results in more work needing to be done by our third-party inspectors.
Understood. I would like to request in the future offline a briefing to be provided on how corrective actions are implemented with respect to general contractors who are not complying with schedule or objectives, and thus causing FCPS to incur increased costs.
Duly noted. Thank you.
I withdraw.
Ms. Dixit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is about these additional charges. If these are billable hours contract, and the construction is delayed, are they doing all the sitting there waiting for this building to be built and just billing hours? I can understand a 100% increase or 50%, but this seems to be a really large increase in terms of if somebody's providing billable services. And I have built up my own house, so I understand that people have, these site inspectors come and do their job, but they don't sit there for a long time to get the project done.
Yes, understood. Typically, our third-party inspectors are called out per the guidance of the general contractor because they're more plugged into the day-to-day construction activities. So I agree, they're not necessarily sitting on the sidelines waiting, but because the construction is, prolonged, or if you're up against a tight crunch to get a project opened, sometimes you need to have them come out more frequent to kind of check along the way, making sure that we're meeting all the intermediate steps so that we can get to our end goal. So when you do usually run up to those situations, we will find the overruns, but I understand the point you raised.
Thank you, Ms. Dixit. There's no other discussion. Since the objection has been withdrawn, we will move to a vote on item 4.04, Amendment of Contract ECS Mid-Atlantic LLC, Construction Testing and Inspection Services for Louise Archer Elementary School. All those in favor? Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Mr. McDaniel, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Lady, Ms. St. John Cunning, Mr. Dunn, Dr. Anderson, Ms. Anderson, Ms. Dixit, Mr. Moon, and Ms. Marin. The item passes. Moving on. Item 4.098, Sole Source Contract Amendment, Jason Learning. Is there discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
I'd like to understand this contract because it refers to a sole source contract. There's not a lot of historical information provided, but it notes that this company, Jason Learning, a subsidiary of National Geographic Society, has been providing services to FCPS since 2011, which seems to suggest that there have been a series of sole source contracts since 2011. So I'd like to understand if that is a fact. But I'd also like to understand why this contract was not competed, why there are a number of companies that I'm aware of, and my day job is not in education, who provide this type of service. And I know of one organization in the South County area of the Mount Vernon district that provides these types of workshops and might do so at a much reduced price, far below $750,000. So I would like to understand the broader context and history of this contract.
So thank you, Mr. Dunn. I will have to defer to Dr. Presidio because it looks like it's an instructional services department contract. Dr. Presidio?
Sure, and thank you for that question or those questions. So this is not just a professional services contract where we receive training from the organization, from the vendor. It's actually our core STEM curriculum that we use in our elementary school. So it's an interdisciplinary curriculum that we use for science, technology, engineering, and math, and we've used it since 2011. That predates me in terms of the procurement process, in terms of how that vendor was selected, but this is core curriculum as well as a lot of training that elementary teachers have received over the years, and if we were to adopt a different curriculum, there would be additional training costs associated with that as well. So that's kind of the background on the relationship that we've had with National Geographic and Jason Learning.
While the National Geographic Society has a great brand, I think we've all witnessed its deterioration in recent years, where effectively the entire society was sold off to Fox quite some time ago. They discontinued the magazine, and it really is a shell of what it used to be. I have a hard time believing that this company, Jason Learning, is the only company in the United States that can provide this this curriculum, and I do find it troubling given the centrality of STEM technologies to the global economy of the future, AI and everything else that's happening, that we would never take even an initiative to issue an RFI, or request for information, or hold an industry day, or hold a workshop so that outside vendors could come in and explain why they could provide a better product for a lower cost. And if you go out into the marketplace, as I am a government contracting attorney, many vendors will do training for free because getting into FCPS, one of the 10th largest school district in the country, represents an extraordinary opportunity, both financially and reputationally. So I do continue to object to this contract because I fail to understand, for something so critical as STEM technology and training, why we're not competing this and just continuing in stasis for 12 years. That's not a best practice.
Mr. Dunn, you finished? Yes. Thank you. Dr. Anderson. Oh, sorry, Ms. Anderson.
That's going to remain very confusing. Dr. Presidio, can you let us know whether or not this is an accredited program?
I apologize. Can you repeat that question?
Can you let us know whether or not this specific program is vetted in terms of being accredited for schools, appropriate for FERPA, all the goodness that would make it appropriate for FCPS?
Yes, it absolutely is, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. There being no further discussion, the question is on adopting 4.08 sole source contract amendment, Jason Learning.
May I please be recognized, Mr.
I'm
Chair?
sorry, Mr. Hand. Go ahead, Ms. Marin.
That's okay. I want to use this opportunity to also mention that our policy 3003 for instructional materials was last reviewed in June 2014. So I do concur with Mr. Dunn that there is an opportunity here to review how instructional materials are selected and how often. We had there's a similar conversation around our basal materials and how often they are reviewed and selected. So I just want to put a plug in for that urgent policy review need.
Thank you. Mr. Moon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could I ask either Dr. Reed or Dr. Presidio impact consequences of school board not approving this contract?
Thank you, Mr. Moon. I'll have to again defer to Dr. Presidio. I'm not sure which courses this is used in.
So again, this is core curriculum used at the elementary level. And my understanding from the procurement office is that this contract is going to expire at the end of the month, and if we don't renew it, we'll no longer have access to the print and electronic materials to be used in the schools.
I will support the motion. Provided that going forward, next time you come back with a contract renewal of this particular contract as a sole source, I would love to hear from Dr. Reed or you, Dr. Presidio, you have attempted other vendors as well.
Yes, sir. We'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moon. Mr. Dunn. I'm sorry, I have somebody before I go back. Ms. St. John Cunning.
Dr. Presidio, can you tell us comparison-wise other programs and how much they cost that are comparable to this, that are used in either elementary or high schools?
So I wouldn't be able to give you comparable programs and costs, that would be something that we typically would negotiate with the vendor through the RFP process. I will say that our RFP process in FCPS is subject, of course, to federal and state laws and quite lengthy. And typically, the procurement of instructional materials through a process like this can take a year to get those materials. We typically follow the state guidelines of looking at updating our curriculum materials every 7 years. That's what the state does, is they update their standards of learning, and the materials that we adopt have to be aligned to the state standards of learning, both those instructional targets as well as the state tests. And it's quite a lot to go through that RFP process. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. St. John Cunning. Mr. Dunn.
Ms. Anderson asked if this is, accredited, FERPA, all the good stuff. Is this the only option out there in the marketplace, even though you haven't done an RFP?
No, it's definitely not the only material or vendor available.
And there are other options that are FERPA and accredited and all that? Okay. So if the board approves this tonight, given the fact that we're kind of between a rock and a hard place, and there are RFP processes that go faster than a year. I mean, it's dependent more on the FCPS than anything else. But you could conduct a request for information to ask potential vendors to come in with data or just information so that you could be briefed on alternatives, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So I would hope if the board approves this tonight, given the rock and the hard place, that you would rapidly develop a strategy for engaging in an RFI and then a subsequent RFP so that we can see if this is the best option, and it might be. I'm not foreclosing that possibility, but it's certainly something that should be considered. Would you agree?
I would. I wasn't sure if Dr. Reed buzzed in there or not, but yes.
Yeah.
Dr. Reed?
I think that it's clear that there are multiple products out there. It's also clear this is a product that the division has used since 2011 for almost 13 years. So I need some real clarity at the end of this vote on this contract about the will of the board before I set the team off to potentially run a process as part of their duty. So I will want some direction. I've heard a variety of individuals on the board make a request. So I'm just asking for clear direction because this will be a body of work, both for the instructional services division, in this case, the advanced academic programs, as well as if we end up with choosing a different program, that'll be a shift in professional development required, all of which are appropriate. I'm just saying it's not, I want to be clear that that's the will of the board directing, and then we will, of course, do it. But I want to get some clarity this evening on that, if possible.
Mr. Chairman?
Just a moment. You'll get a go back when we finish going through everybody else. Dr. Anderson.
Thank you. Maybe after this round of discussion, we can provide the superintendent with some clarity. Couple of things that I wanted to ask, and thank you for re-engaging Dr. Presidio in terms of this product. Looking at the contract, it's for a year, so we'll be having this conversation again, whether it's Jason Learning or some other product, in a year. So there is some space for us to do some additional, to gather some additional information. And I think two things just come to mind. One, as is with everything else, we have been doing this from 2011. Is it still having the impact that we want it to have? What are the users saying? What are teachers saying? What does the data show in terms of the impact of this product? Maybe it's not doing what we want it to do, and that would be an opportunity to seek something new. And maybe it is. That would be an opportunity to know that we should remain with this product. So I would be wondering, I'm not giving a direction, but I would be wondering, the teachers who are being trained and who are utilizing this, what is their feedback? And again, not just the anecdotal, what is the impact? What is the data that we're going to utilize to evaluate its effectiveness? That's my wonder.
Yeah, those are excellent questions, and I don't have all of that information this evening. What I can tell you is anecdotally, feedback that I've received both from teachers and from students when I observe in the classroom students using these materials, that they are very interactive, they're very engaging. It's a lot of project-based learning activities, and students and teachers have given us very positive feedback about the materials. They are used in our advanced academic program with those students scoring, above 95% pass rates, pass advanced rates, I should say, on the SOLs in math and science. So we do think it's been a very effective product, or we wouldn't bring the contract renewal request to the board this evening, but board members are asking very good questions, and we certainly can take a harder look at the product.
Yeah, I think the observations that you've just shared are good, but I think we need to kind of have some verification of that, which will require some additional work if we were to go down this path.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser.
I think this is a good discussion. I think, it's always a difficulty, right, in what we ask the dais, what information we gather in preparation for meetings, right, and questions that we have. I know it can be difficult sometimes. We have 2 meetings in a week and the lengthy agendas to ask the questions, so we have the information to inform our votes. But I think when we're looking at cost effectiveness, like I really appreciate Mr. Dunn bringing up, should we do an RFP process? And Dr. Anderson, is this the best product? Should we instead of sole sourcing from 2011, recompete it every time? Those are all very good, valid questions, and I think to Ms. Marin's point, maybe there is some room through the policy review process to kind of answer some of those questions and have those conversations. What I will say is I think there's a couple of tensions I want to lift up here. One is there's the cost savings in potential cost savings in recompeting. There's also the potential costs of recompeting, right? Just the extra staff it takes. I'm not saying one is better than the other, just things to think about. There's also the potential of having maybe a better program than we have now, but there's also the cost, both in time, professional development, redoing curriculum, teachers adapting to a new program when they are used to using a program that's both people, time costs, and perhaps money costs in PD, and there's always competing interest for PD, so so I think all of those need to be balanced when we're trying to decide when should we sole source something that's embedded deeply in our curriculum and well used and used over again, and which should we not. As far as the sort of quality control or return on investment, is this still the best product? Is this still actually doing what we need to do? That to me is the job of the superintendent and her staff, right? That's deeply operational. And while I think we're asking really good questions and we should ask these questions, it is one of the most difficult things when I start on this board is really understanding the role of the board versus the role of the superintendent and where that lies and where that crosses. And asking the questions for accountability is important, but at what point do we say to Dr. Reed, have you and your staff done the work to determine whether this is something that's worth continuing or not? What's that process look like? That's kind of questions. But if we start digging into whether every program ourselves we think is the best instructional program, then I don't know how we have our staff. So I think there's just a balance that's really difficult to find because we and the public want to know the answers. Is this the best instructional program or not for any particular program? But the size and scope of the county, I don't know how we as a board would do that work as a part-time policy governance board. I always tell people when they ask me why superintendent and board, I say the superintendent's like our CEO and we're like the board of directors. So there's a tension with those roles, and it's difficult to find that balance. I still know I'm working on it, but I think when we're looking at cost and effectiveness and efficiencies, we have to look into all of the implications of changing or not changing. So I just wanted to lift that up as food for thought.
Thank you, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser. Ms. Marin?
Yes, I do think, I wonder if the policy would, if we clarify the policy, if it would clear up some of these questions. But I also think that given that this is a sole source contract, it is reasonable for the board to perhaps vote on a directive tonight that once we pass this contract renewal or amendment, since it's mid-year, that we can direct the superintendent to report back with information about this particular contract, or even contracts that are up for renewal, especially related to academics or over a period of time, if they're 10 years, going, I think that is in the purview of the board. So I would be open to passing this tonight so our students do not have their science instruction interrupted. I also want to point out we are doing a massive transition with the science of reading. And that in of itself is a huge lift for especially our elementary school teachers. So I'm not willing to just, stop this contract for science, but I think it would be good to know why a continued amendment, why not a renewed contract? Those would be the questions. So I put that for my colleagues' consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Marin. Mr. Moon?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In as much as I respect my colleague, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser's a comment on operational aspect of what you do versus on the policy level, there was a reason why we put a threshold. I think long ago it was less than $200,000. I guess that since then it's been raised to $200,000. If a contract amount goes above that threshold, it should come to the board for the board approval. Because ultimately, board is going to be responsible. Board is going to be held accountable for its action. That's what you are being asked to do, take on action. Approve, not approve, modify, that's what you are being asked to do. And I am, as I said earlier, I'm willing to support this for tonight. But going forward, for something like this, and the next one that is going to come up, next contract, I'm going to support for the same reason. But I think the board has a responsibility to get more information from superintendent and other staff, and be able to review what you are doing. And if a superintendent is seeking some direction from the board, it may not have to be. It does not necessarily have to be tonight. Mr. Dunn or somebody else could certainly present this as a forum topic and have a fuller discussion rather than tonight, because I didn't know that until just a half an hour ago, and Mr. Dunn was going to have several items removed from the consent agenda. That brought my attention to it, and I am happy, I am really glad and appreciate that Mr. Dunn, as a new board member, bring a new approach in how we do our business as a board.
Thank you, Mr. Moon. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser.
I just briefly, since Mr. Moon referenced me specifically in per se, I just want to kind of respond. I don't disagree. I'm well aware of the contract thresholds and the changes. We dug into that. I don't disagree with the board having oversight and we're responsible. What I was saying was that we're not the instructional experts, and so the level of understanding instruction, we need to let our staff do it. Doesn't mean we don't ask the questions, which is what I said in my comments as well. But there is there's a balance between figuring out how deep we can go instructionally and how not. And so I just wanted to clarify my remarks to make sure I was clear in what I was trying to say. I am well aware of the contract threshold and changes and the reasons why. We had many conversations in the last 4 years about that and made some changes as well in the last 4 years. So thank you for reminding me of the history that you had. And we just need to figure out as a board where that balance is. And I think it's very helpful to review these contracts. I also think it's probably helpful to do this to make sure that our staff knows our questions so they can come prepared to answer them as well, so we can get full information to help us prepare for the vote.
Thank you, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser. I'm going to take a turn on this one. I sidebarred with Mr. Dunn just now about Mr. Moon's idea on a forum topic. And so rather than doing a motion after this particular contract, I'll be talking to Mr. Dunn about how to submit a forum topic so that we can have a broader, more detailed discussion than we want to at this hour. All right. There is no further discussion. The question is on adopting 4.08 sole source contract amendment Jason Learning. All those in favor, raise your hand. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Mr. McDaniel, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Lady, Ms. St. John Cunning, Mr. Dunn, Ms. Anderson, Ms. Dixit, Mr. Moon, Ms. Marin, with Dr. Anderson away from the table. Moving on to the next one. Item 4.09, sole source contract amendment, EduPoint Educational Systems. Is there discussion? Microphone.
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
I would just like to make the same point with respect to this contract as the last one. This is an 8-year contract, started in 2017. My concern is that it's a $2.8 million contract, and given the proclivities I've seen tonight and over the past 10 years as an education advocate, I fear that next year there will be, you know, a 1-year extension and a 1-year extension and 1-year extension after that. So I would, you know, I can defer this topic to the forum and I'll withdraw my objection, but I do ask that, you know, just in general, we look at long-term contracts and whether there are other service providers who can provide more bang for the buck rather than just continuing indefinitely. So I withdraw my objection.
There being no further discussion, the question is on adopting 4.09, sole source contract amendment, EduPoint Educational Systems. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser.
Hold on. Sorry, Mr. Frisch, I just saw that Ms. Marin had her hand raised.
I'm sorry, Ms. Marin?
My apologies, I was voting already.
Okay. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Mr. McDaniel, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Lady, Ms. St. John Cunning, Mr. Dunn, Ms. Anderson, Ms. Dixit, Mr. Moon, Ms. Marin, and Dr. Anderson away from the table. All right. We will now move on to item 4.11, additional advisory committee appointments. Oh, that was included in the. Yeah. Okay, so we're done. All right. Thank you very much. Getting back to the primary script here. Agenda item 5, new business. The following are new business agenda items. There will not be a vote on these items this evening, but action is scheduled at a future meeting. The new business items are on the screen. Item number 6, agenda item 6, board matters. Next on the agenda is board matters. I will call on each school board member to speak. Mr. Moon.
Mr. Chairman, just briefly, I am happy to be back to the school board so that I can work with the other 11 board members. Many of them are doing this for the first time. Even though I had done this for 20 years, you know, returning to the school board, it's surprisingly requiring a lot of adjustment in my own life, especially with my day job. I think time demand has increased quite a bit over the last 4-year period, but I'm hoping that it won't take too much time before I get fully adjusted to new lifestyle. Having said that, you know, if you haven't read this story, I would like to share one quick story with you about one of my former teachers from then T.C. Williams Senior High School, Mr. Louis Coconis, legendary now. We have to call him legendary because he passed away on January the 4th. He had taught until he died at the age of 91 for 65 years. Wow. What a life he had. Loving his more than 6,000 students, and I was fortunate enough to be one of those 6,000 students in my junior year in his Algebra 5 back then, pre-calculus class. Thank you, Mr. Coconis. I was happy to visit your class back in 2016 and invite you to our great beginnings to be introduced to more than 1,000 new teachers in Fairfax County in 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Moon. Ms. Dixit.
I'm thrilled to introduce myself as a newly elected school board member and a Sully District representative on the Fairfax County School Board. Sully District has been my home since 2004, where I had the privilege of raising my family. I'm a proud mother of 2 FCPS students, and I understand the importance of quality education, and it impacts my children, our children's future. Little background, my husband and I immigrated from US to US from India, and we are really appreciative of the magnificent opportunities living in Fairfax County. I'm a small business owner and also a nonprofit co-founder, and I've been very actively involved in the community, volunteering, being involved in the PTAs as a PTA leader, and this has really, I guess, prepared me to today be in front of you and be a board member. I want to thank you, all of the people and my fellow board members for, I look forward to working with all of you. I want to thank to Stella, who actually helped me, introduced me to this position and kind of guided me through this. And I'm especially thankful to the Sully District, all the residents for giving me this opportunity, and I hope to serve all of you. And a quick shout out to Oakton High School Marching Band, who won Metallica Marching Band competition, to whom the band throws. And they will get an award of $15,000, thanks to all the parents, students, and community members who voted for them. Go Cougars. And I hope 2024 brings you a lot of love, laughter, and joy. Thank you.
Ms. Anderson.
As I was getting ready tonight to figure out what I wanted to share, the number 11 kept coming up. The last 11 months have been a whirlwind. As someone who believes wholeheartedly in the importance of supporting your community, it took me the last 11 months for me to realize, or to understand the leap that this role was going to be for my family and me. The last 11 days have proved that all I really saw was the tip of the iceberg, with so many nuanced opportunities below the surface of what this position looks like from the outside. I am eternally grateful for the guidance that I've received so far along the way. My predecessor, Laura Jane Cohn, offered me the best mentorship and cheerleading possible and has answered all of my crazy questions. My executive administrative assistant, Stephanie Sheridan, took the leap to continue to serve with the people of the Springfield District and ensure continuity for our office. To my 11 colleagues on the board who have already proven themselves invaluable, we are all so different in so many ways and so alike in the ones that are the most important, our desire to ensure that Fairfax County is the best school system possible for our kids. I have had way more than 11 meetings, talking with county officials, several of our regional assistant superintendents, members of our leadership team, involved community members out there doing good work, and our amazing superintendent. Perhaps my favorite that I had the privilege of was speaking with the 5th grade scouts that are part of Troop 688, who stayed engaged in our conversation for way longer than 11 minutes, to the surprise of their parents. I so appreciated their time and attention, and for sharing what I had already suspected. Our kids want to understand more about the decisions that we're making to help keep them safe. They want to be part of the conversation, and we need to listen to them. That was reiterated last night at the hardest moment of the last 11 days. I was trying not to channel all of the Springfield. I know, I'm working on it. When I attended our community conversation to raise awareness at Edison High School and heard from the foster family about the loss of their son to fentanyl. We had students as young as 6th grade stand up in the audience and ask us to make sure that their friends knew what they needed to know to stay safe. Many of us on the board were there, and we were listening very carefully. So, despite this ended on a sad note, I am amazingly excited about the adventure that we're about to start on, and I'm looking so forward to working with all of you, so thank you.
You are. Dr. Anderson. Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
That was really lovely. That was really nice. I don't know. That is yet to be seen. Well, on a lighter note, I do want to say Happy New Year to everyone. Very excited to be back on this board, and I do want to extend my thanks to the Mason District for your trust in me to do this work, to represent you. I am not here to represent what Ricardi Anderson thinks. I'm here to represent and fight for what the Mason District needs and what they need to have happen from our school division. So thank you. I do want to say to everyone, there are a lot of opportunities on Monday, on Martin Luther King Day, to participate in various days of service. There's a plethora of information on the Fairfax County website, and I do know that many of our schools have been posting opportunities as well online and with students, so please take the chance to engage in that time. It's not just a day off. As we are pivoting into the second quarter, which is quickly ending, we're pivoting into the third quarter as the second quarter is quickly ending at the end of this month, I do want to remind our parents there are two great opportunities for you to make sure you are tracking how your students are doing. Please be sure that you are on Parent View and sign up so that you get weekly emails, however often you want them, so you don't have to go to see how your kids are doing. The email is sent to you on a regular basis, as well as the Relay Lightspeed, where you can identify and review where your students are spending their time when they're using their FCPS devices. It is an invaluable resource for you to see how much YouTube your kids can actually engage in during science class. Just another reminder to our high schoolers who are in the process of applying for financial aid. There are many FAFSA completion assistance. This is the Federal Student Aid Form. College Access Fairfax and FCPS have partnered to offer families with assistance in completing this document. January 20th at Justice High School, January 30th at Annandale High School, February 20th also at Annandale High School. As we are engaging in the capital improvement program, as we are engaging in the budget program, I do encourage the Mason District and others to please come out at the public hearings and provide us with your feedback. Share your voice, because that needs to be what informs our work. And lastly, I too am very excited to work with this group of colleagues, especially tonight as I heard how people are approaching this work and I see the variety of skills that you all are bringing into this work. It really warms my heart that we are going to be diverse in not only our skills and our thinking, but it only strengthens the work that this board can do when we have this diversity of thought. So I'm very appreciative and very excited to embark with you all in the next 4 years.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Mr. Dunn.
I'm honored and humbled to have the opportunity to serve my community and Fairfax County to make sure that every single child, regardless of where they come from, who they are, who their family is, receives a world-class education. FCPS, when I was growing up overseas, I'd never lived in Virginia, I didn't know anyone in Virginia, but I had heard of Fairfax County as having the best schools in the world. So when I graduated from law school and my wife graduated from getting her master's in social work, we knew where we were going to live. There was absolutely no question. And moving to the Mount Vernon District 20 years ago was the best decision we ever made. All three of our children attended FCPS from first grade through 12th grade, and they received outstanding educations. But it's hard as a parent nowadays. The threat of random gun violence, the threat of fentanyl overdoses that we saw last night with the heartbreaking story of the Fosters, the dangers overseas that seems to be infiltrating our society, rising intolerance and hate, wars that seem to be proliferating. My children are entering the military, so that's a particular concern to me. Rising terrorism, just the threats never seem to end. And at the same time, we face numerous challenges in the wake of the pandemic. Rising anxiety and mental and behavioral stress, the learning loss that resulted during the pandemic, even though FCPS and the prior school board did the best they could. And then, of course, the budget constraints we face with possibly a soft landing or possibly a recession. But in all of that, I see strong glimmers of hope. We have an absolutely incredible superintendent and an absolutely incredible staff, talented and dedicated educators who, despite the fact that they have too many administrative burdens and aren't paid enough, they're working their hearts out to make sure that every kid gets a world-class education, despite all the challenges that I just described. And you know, everyone from bus drivers to the janitors to the cafeteria workers, we're all in this together. And I am cheered on by the fact and inspired by the fact that I have 11 colleagues who I'm still continuing to get introduced to, but am continually in awe of all that they've accomplished and all of their insights, that I'm constantly in listening and learning mode, not just being new to the board, but also listening to all of their ideas and suggestions, and all 11 of them, frankly, serve as mentors to me of how to be a better school board member and how to be a better human. So I appreciate their service, I appreciate their models, and I hope that I can emulate the incredible predecessors I have in Karen Corbett Sanders, Dan Stork, and Chris Amundsen to deliver to the Mount Vernon District all that they hope for their community, for their schools, for their families. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Ms. Marin?
Yes, 1 second. Thank you. I too want to congratulate the Oakton Band. I voted for you. Yay band. I will always support a marching band, especially one backed by an awesome rock group. So tonight and this season, a lot of our high schools are hosting curriculum nights where our rising ninth graders will go to start to look at their schedules. And my own daughter was one of them tonight. And I haven't yet heard from her how that went, but it did allow me to talk with her about her intentions for high school. And, you know, I impressed all the opportunities that she'd have in front of her. And one thing I said was, you know, your current principal, Dr. Mizell over at Langston, you know, he sees you every day, or he sees the students, and then you're gone. And, you know, I said, these teachers and these staff give their whole lives and they care so much about you. And then you go off and do whatever you do, and they might never see you again. And I just, you know, I hope the public thinks about the kind of person it takes who can do that job, give their hearts to something, and just let it go. And you'll be lucky if maybe you see a few of those students in the future. But I also wanted to reflect on the role of families. So, you know, the families are key. And I was discouraged to hear one of the public comments tonight that, you know, we don't support families, we don't welcome families. But it is the families coming to curriculum nights, understanding the academics with students, that is what's going to help them succeed. And so, you know, when I hear claims like, you know, FCPS has to get drugs out of school, problems of drugs, of violence, they're not going to be solved within our school walls. They're going to be resolved outside in the community, and we need the families' help. So I'm glad that so many people are going to the curriculum nights and participating in all the ways that people do. I also wanted to reflect upon, you know, the experience that it's kind of a new day for school boards, and yeah, it's quite a different tenor these days. But I am very thrilled to be back for a second term. And as I said earlier, when I was humbled to be elected as vice chair, I'm inspired by this new board's approach to work and its commitment to excellence. I learned a lot from tonight's discussion about our contracts, and I think we have lots of interesting views to share. So I'm really excited to continue the work, finish off the second quarter. Theater season's coming, sports seasons, and I'm just delighted to be here with Chair Carl Frisch to continue this work among us all. Have a good night.
Thank you, Ms. Marin. Ms. St. John Cunning?
Thank you. I'd like to begin by thanking my family, my friends, the colleagues on this board, and everyone in the Franconia district, and really in my situation throughout Fairfax County that made it possible for me to be here tonight. Like Ms. Anderson, I did not anticipate what was going to happen the past 11 months in terms of running for a position. A little bit about me and my background. I'm from El Paso, Texas. I'm the daughter of a Mexican immigrant mother and a Mexican-American father with an 18-generation history in these United States. I am the proud product of a great public education, beginning from Head Start through high school, where my debate coach inspired me to apply for a debate scholarship, which helped finance my time in college. Ms. Rita Harlan was an amazing coach for so many people, and she changed the trajectory of my life, just like I know teachers in Fairfax County are doing for the students here. I went from being involved in FCPS as a parent. 3 of my daughters graduated from FCPS schools, and through that I became a language interpreter, a family liaison, a family engagement region representative, and my last position, a community school coordinator, to sitting on this dais. That's something I would have never imagined. I say that so that I hope that other people out there, not just parents, but maybe students, can maybe see this as a place where they can come to, because believe me, this is never where I saw myself. I'm humbled that I'm here, and I'm honored to be serving with so many amazing colleagues. The staff, wow, you guys blow me away. You guys are amazing. We have a superintendent that is so committed to making this the best system in the United States. She wants this to be a model for everyone to follow. If we can do that, we know that our kids are going to get the best of everything. All of the roles that I mentioned that I were roles of service. I served teachers, I served students, I served families. The title of school board representative does not in any way elevate me above my constituents, the teachers, the school staff, or families. It only means that I have a greater responsibility to continue serving all of you to the best of my ability to ensure that Fairfax County Public Schools continue to provide safe, equitable, inclusive schools where all students, teachers, and families feel valued and respected.
Thank you, Ms. St. John Cunning. Ms. Lady.
Good evening. I want to begin by saying that I'm honored to serve on this board with my esteemed colleagues as a Dranesville Magisterial District Representative. A lifelong learner, I've thoroughly enjoyed our orientation training, and I'm grateful to leadership team, staff, and returning board members for their time and patience answering questions. A product of Fairfax County, I was so excited to return as an employee, and I'm extremely proud of my 27 years of service as a counselor and director of student services. Kids were at the center of my work each and every day, and I endeavor to make that the case in my work on this board. I'm excited to continue to learn more about Fairfax County from this seat, and particularly our Dranesville community and schools. I look forward to collaborating with my fellow school board members to support and partner with our superintendent in Fairfax County's new strategic plan and meeting students, families, school staff, and community members at different events across the county. I want to thank our Office of Community Relations for organizing community conversations to raise awareness about fentanyl and other drugs that took place last night at Edison High School. Overdoses in our country are up 400% over the past decade, and we must educate all our students on the risks of fentanyl as we teach, support, and empower them to reach out to a trusted adult when and if they or one of their peers is engaging in risk behavior. It is my hope that this message will reach all of our families and students. While there is great debate regarding age appropriateness of discussing this sick reality in our world, I commend the 6th grade boy who stood up last night and asked for training for his peers. We are all in this fight together. Now some good news from Dranesville. I was delighted to be present at the announcement of Ferris Thomas as the new principal at Franklin Sherman Elementary School starting January 16th. Ms. Thomas has spent 18+ years in Fairfax County and most recently served as the assistant principal at Chesterbrook. I was especially happy to celebrate this promotion as I was a former colleague of Ms. Thomas at McLean High School. Congratulations, and I look forward to working with Ms. Thomas in the Franklin Sherman Elementary School community. The Cooper Middle School Symphonic Band made history by being the first scholastic band from Fairfax County and Virginia invited to the Midwest International Band and Orchestra Clinic in 20 years. This event is the Super Bowl of music education events and features the best bands and orchestras from around the world. To prepare for and qualify, the students learned 14 pieces of music in 4 months, including 2 world premieres. As a former performing arts administrator at Chantilly, I remain in awe of the talent across our system. The Herndon High School marching band, the Pride, was invited and performed in the 2023 Pearl Harbor Parade in Honolulu, Hawaii. Having chaperoned the Chantilly marching band on this trip years ago, I know what an amazing experience this is for our students. Congratulations to the Pride of Herndon. As we approach this weekend, I hope that we will all pause and reflect on the amazing work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and honor his memory by continuing to fight against bigotry and intolerance and find ways in which we can live and work together and respect and honor each other. As Dr. Reed mentioned earlier, if you're looking for a family event for the Martin Luther King Day holiday, consider volunteering with Give Together, a collaboration between FCPS and Volunteer Fairfax and Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lady. Mr. McElveen.
Thank you, Mr. Frisch. So it's wonderful to come back to so many new and fresh faces, and also some old faces, of course, no older than Mr. Moon himself. It's good to see you, sir. But also some old friends, Mr. Smith, Mr. Presidio, Ms. Kennedy, Ms. King, and other folks who have stuck around. So thanks for being here for us. But I do want to just use my time to express my profound thanks, not only to Mr. Frisch and the old board members. Yes, the four of you are now considered old as well. But also to our clerk, Ms. Setlow, Mr. Jackson, and Tara for all the work you've done over the past 2 months. I don't know how you've done it. Well, I do know you haven't slept, but really just all of us could not be more thankful for all the events and orientations, and certainly Mr. Ho with all the tech issues getting us up and running. We really do appreciate it. So thank you to everyone. I'm looking forward to a stimulating next 4 years, and I think tonight's been a good start. So it's great to work with such a wonderful group. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. McElveen. Mr. McDaniel.
Thank you. I have to admit, I was sharing with my colleague from the Braddock District over here. I did not realize this was an introductory session that we were all going to go around on. But that being said, my wife sent me a video clip of our 4-year-old in bed with the cat tonight, and it was a very cute video. Mm-hmm. And I was sharing a picture with Dr. Reed that my 2-year-old took this morning, a selfie. And as I've watched my own kids grow up, I see the opportunity that they're going to have being Fairfax County students. And every time I see pictures of them, I'm reminded of the job that we all have and the responsibility that we all carry to all kids across Fairfax County, to Mr. Dunn's point, regardless of where they live. And I'm honored to be a part of that journey for the next 4 years. I do have one item additionally. Some of the community is aware of the passing of the Fairfax NAACP branch president, Michelle Leet. She was not only the longest serving board member of the county branch of the NAACP, but she was also a longtime PTA leader. She served on the Fairfax County Council of PTAs in many roles, including as vice president of training. She also served on her local PTA board at Edison High School and on the Virginia PTA board. She touched many lives through her selfless volunteering. She's been described as a true servant leader, and I know that the board joins me in keeping her family in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDaniel. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser.
Thank you. And first, I just want to say I'm really excited to be back on the board, serving in a new role as a Braddock District representative. So just a couple words to my Braddock District constituents, for those who don't know me as well as my at-large may know or don't know, that I've actually been a resident of the Braddock District for 22 years. I moved to the Braddock District when I was pregnant with my son and my daughter was a toddler. They both spent their entire educational career in FCPS schools in the Braddock District, Kings Park, Kings Glen. My daughter was in the AAP program at Keene Mill. My son was at Hunt Valley for a little while in the Enhanced Autism program. I see a Hunt Valley teacher in the audience before coming back to Kings Glen, and they both graduated from Lake Braddock, my son in 2022. So I'm really excited to serve the district that I've called home, where I've worked, I've lived, I've raised my family. So thank you for that honor of serving the district. But I also am really glad that my service for the next 4 years will be informed by the countywide lens that I've had for the last 4 years. And I think it really helps to have that balance between making sure the needs of my district are met, but also understanding that we're one school system. I think Mr. Dunn mentioned that. So thank you. In that, I wanted to say I'm really glad to hear how powerful the town hall was. I was not able to be there because I was at the ACSD meeting, which I'm the liaison to, but I did go to the previous town hall that we held, and I understand it was incredibly powerful. And I really encourage all of our families to look at the materials we have on substance abuse, and especially on the fentanyl crisis. It can happen to anybody, and it's incredibly deadly, and it is valuable lessons that we can all as a community wrap our arms around our kids to help keep them safe. So on a lighter note, I did want to lift up a couple things that are coming up soon for those theater fans like me. Lake Braddock Secondary School, the middle school, is doing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer for anyone who's missing the holidays. Frost Middle School is doing Puff's Young Wizards Edition. Both of those are this weekend. In addition to that, Robinson Secondary School Theater is doing a student-directed showcase on January 13th. For those of you who are huge theater fans like me, there's actually a website on FCPS. You can Google FCPS Performing Arts Calendar, and all these will pop up. It is the best theater locally, not that I'm biased, that you can find, and it's great to support our young, growing actors and actresses and thespians. So just to lift that up as well, I'm really excited to attend some of these events in the Braddock District and be out and about. I want to thank my new colleagues. I'm really excited to work with all of you. I'm really excited to the fresh perspectives, different experiences. We're really a group of so much talent and knowledge and experience, and I'm really excited to learn from you as I work alongside you. And I just wanted to, I have to say, give a thanks to my colleagues who are not here from the past 4 years. It has truly been a trial by fire that we've gone through in the last 4 years, and I think what that board went through is unlike no other, and I just want to thank them for the work they did.
Thank you, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser. I will take my turn. Happy New Year to Providence District families. Since our last meeting, I had an opportunity to attend a variety of holiday concerts at Providence District schools, but I want to be a little personal tonight. My earliest memory growing up, I was about 3 years old, and my 2 older sisters were already in school, and my younger sister was 1 year old, and when my mother would put her down for a nap, we would get the latest books that I received in the mail. We had a mail order book subscription, and I did not understand how the Postal Service worked at 3. They just arrived, and there were new books to read, and they were always a surprise. And so my mother would open the box, and then we would pick a book to read, and we would read it together before my nap. My mother passed away on November 30th, and the last time I spoke to her before going back to California to be with her, which was the last time I spoke to her, she congratulated me on being reelected and said she was proud of me, but she didn't know why I was doing it again. So, why I do this, people are like, you've got no kids. Why do you do this? Because I want kids to be attracted to learning the way I was by the experiences I had growing up. And I want to avoid the experiences that made learning more difficult for anybody that I possibly can. And so I am excited to be working with this board. It's already been said we have a lot of unique talents, and we're going to put those talents to the test, believe me. I first started talking to Ms. Marin about being vice chair and working together at VSBA this year in November. And we've had a lot of really great conversations about structure and how things operate and what our priorities should be and how the retreats are going to shape up with the governance committee chair. And I'm very much looking forward to doing whatever we can as a team to help this team succeed in the 6 months that are in front of us. And with that, I will say I'm looking forward to honoring Martin Luther King Day on Monday at the First Baptist Church of Vienna with Dr. Walton and many others in the community. And we're not adjourning because this board, if you've forgotten, have one more item to take care of and closed. But I will say, good night, Ms. Tolan, if you're watching. You can go to bed now, and we'll be back to close this meeting officially after closed. So we'll be back. We are in recess until we return from...
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
you may want to make a motion again to go into a closed session.
All right. I don't know if I have to make... Thank you. Just a moment. We do not need to make a motion to go back into closed because we did not adjourn closed. So, what is the... That'd be great. We've never done this before.
I think the board has, but my
No,
understanding...
I mean, we've never done this. If we're re-motioning closed, we've not done that before.
Right. My understanding is that you recessed the
Correct.
Closed meeting, so you can just reconvene and...
Thank you. So we will reconvene in closed, and we'll be back to finish and close out closed. Thank you.